Chapter 38. As expected, Musichu and Musilian refused to go. They were both adults and still needed to study. How could they follow them to Sakura Island? Especially when Xiao Fei said this in front of Mu Junming. At that time, Mu Junming had looked at the two brothers like knives. If they dared to say anything, they probably wouldn't live to see tomorrow. Seeing that they weren't going, Xiao Fei didn't show too much happiness. He just said, "Then Jin will stay at home with you. You have to take good care of her." Musilian glanced at Xiao Jin and said with a smile, "Okay, we will take good care of her." He especially emphasized the word take good care. Xiao Jin also said solemnly, "Okay. Fei Fei, don't worry. I will take good care of them." Musichu, Musilian, who are you looking at? Xiao Fei wasn't worried about the Mu brothers. She was worried that Xiao Jin would go out and talk nonsense. However, seeing that Xiao Jin had been acting normal these days, she was relieved to go out with Mu Junming. In a sense, Xiao Fei was also a big-hearted person. Otherwise, Xiao Jin's drug abuse wouldn't have been resolved so quickly. Before they left, they still had to attend Song Yanqing's birthday party. That day, the birthday party was extremely grand. Xiao Fei custom-made a light yellow gauze dress for Xiao Jin. To be honest, it looked a little like a delicate princess. Xiao Jin didn't like this style, but Xiao Fei liked it. When Xiao Jin put it on, she clapped her hands happily. "Jin, you are really Mommy's little princess." Xiao Jin, her hair wasn't very long. The stylist had arranged it and it was close to her ears. The tail was naturally curly. Xiao Fei even put a diamond hairpin on her head. Xiao Jin couldn't express any opinions about this woman's beauty. The three sons of the Mu family were all dressed in suits for formal occasions. However, Mu Junming was wearing a dark blue suit. Coupled with his status, he was elegant. The two sons of the Mu family still looked a little immature. On the way there, Xiao Fei originally wanted to ask Mu Chilian to keep an eye on Xiao Jin. However, considering Mu Chilian's personality, she cleverly called for Mu Chilian instead. "Chilian, later on, you and your sister will be together and keep an eye on her. It's her first time at such an occasion, so she might not be used to it. Don't let her meet Song Yanqing, and don't let her meet anyone else." Nonsense. To Xiao Jin, to Xiao Yu, to Xiao Xiao Xiao. And to Xiao Xiao Fei. Musilian rolled his eyes and sneered. "What are you looking at? You're already an adult. If you don't know anything, just sit there and play with your phone. Don't get in the way." As soon as he finished speaking, Mu Junming glared at him from the rearview mirror. Xiao Jin didn't care. She just smiled at Xiao Fei. "Okay, Fei Fei. I'll follow Chi Chu." Xiao Fei heaved a sigh of relief. Stepping into the Mu family, the low-key and quiet Song family mansion was lively today. Before they even entered, they could hear the whispers coming from inside. Old Master Song believed in fate. In the corners of the mansion, red lanterns were hung to show the festive mood. However, all of this fell into Xiao Jin's eyes, and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. Red dots flickered everywhere. Every position was in a position they shouldn't be. The air of death filled the air. The Rakshasa world was eyeing covetously. Someone had set up a life-sealing array for the Song family. This was something that only an array master could do. Chapter 39. The Song family had always been located halfway up a mountain on the outskirts of the imperial capital due to its unique characteristics. Although it was located in a remote area, the recent development was not bad. It was connected to the subway and was close to the western district of the imperial capital. However, no matter how much development there was, the Song family enjoyed the most unique position. It was said that a famous feng shui master was the one who chose to build the Song family's mansion here. The Song family used to be incomparably glorious, but everything changed when Song Yanqing was born. The Song family was huge and the person in charge now was Song Yanqing's grandfather. Old Master Song had two sons in this generation. However, the eldest son was strong and healthy, while the second son had been in poor health since he was young and had been recuperating abroad. The Song family also had more female members. The other relatives of the Song family also had daughters. Although the Song family did not favor boys over girls, after Old Master Song's sons got married, they all gave birth to daughters. This made people more anxious. Daughters would eventually have to be married off, and they would be matched with people of equal social status. After giving birth to children, they would have to take the surname of an outsider. Even if they were to recruit son-in-laws, it was impossible to recruit all of them. Moreover, the daughters of the Song family were quite capable. Most of them were studying or working abroad. Song Yanqing was born under such circumstances. As the only male of this generation, he was almost the center of attention. His father was the eldest young master of the Song family. However, his body was extremely weak and he took after his second uncle. He was the lifeblood of the Song family. Even if his body was weak, they had to use the best medicinal herbs and the best treatment to keep Song Yanqing alive. There were many opinions about the reason for his poor health. They said that he was sick, but no one knew what illness it was. The Song family kept it a secret. Qiao Fei and the others followed Mu Zhenming in and also received a lot of attention. Although they could not compare to the Song family, the Mu family was also a rising star in the upper-class circle. In particular, Mu Zhenming and Qiao Fei had a melodramatic story. In order to bring Qiao Fei back, Mu Zhenming fought with his father for decades. Finally, his father went abroad and he brought Qiao Fei back. This matter caused quite a stir in the imperial capital. Everyone looked over. Other than the business partners who wanted to strike up a conversation with Mu Zhenming, there were also some people who were looking at Qiao Fei and Qiao Jin. Not many people knew about Qiao Jin, but most of the rich and noble ladies had nothing better to do. Qiao Fei's affairs had long been the gossip of everyone. They knew a thing or two about this adopted daughter, so naturally, they were interested. Mu Zhenming brought Qiao Fei and the others to meet the head of the Song family. Although today was Song Yanqing's birthday party, his body was extremely weak. He would only come out to greet everyone when the party was officially held. He would not meet anyone alone. The person who hosted the banquet for him was his father, Song Shiyin. Mu Zhenming led his family up and gave a simple greeting to Song Weiyin. It was enough to let Song Weiyin know that the Mu family was here. He didn't have much time to interact with everyone. This kind of place also had the nature of business contacts. After Mu Zhenming gave a greeting, naturally, someone came up to talk to him. Only Musichu and Musilian had friends of the same age who came to look for them. Even Qiao Fei was greeted by some noble ladies who wanted to climb up the Mu family's ranks. Qiao Jin was more embarrassed. Of course, she didn't think so. Everyone in the Mu family had their own personal social circle. Qiao Fei asked her to follow Musichu, but Musichu would also talk to others. Qiao Jin was eating alone at the long table next to them. Musichu found that Qiao Jin was gone in a flash. Chapter 40. Of course, Qiao Jin did it on purpose. What was her purpose for coming here? Wasn't it for Song Yanqing's death aura? She didn't need to be too ostentatious. She could take advantage of him before he died. As for who had such a deep hatred for the Song family that they had set up the life-sealing array, to be honest, she wasn't very interested. At this time, Song Yanqing was in his room. Now that it was the birthday party, although the Song Yanqing was relaxed, the protection of Song Yanqing was still very tight. Even in her own house, there were people guarding the roads leading to Song Yanqing's house. However, Qiao Jin followed the red dot's guidance and found a small path that was rarely visited and almost impossible to be noticed. She could only go downstairs to Song Yanqing's bedroom. Song Yanqing lived in a small courtyard in the north. His room was on the second floor, and there were bodyguards guarding downstairs and upstairs. Outsiders couldn't go there. Qiao Jin walked out of a small door next to the garden below his bedroom. Ahead was the swimming pool. Song Yanqing's death aura was so strong that Qiao Jin could easily find his position. At this moment, Song Yanqing was sitting on the balcony above the swimming pool. He was wearing gold-rimmed glasses, and there was an extremely thin golden thread hanging down from his ears. It swayed slightly with his movements, and the swaying of his facial features had a kind of peerless hazy beauty. There was an English book in his hand. Today, he was wearing a simple but elegant white silk robe. The robe was exquisite and elegant with a light golden flying crane pattern that was not eye-catching. From the workmanship, one could tell that it was definitely not a custom-made robe that ordinary people could buy. This kind of robe was very picky. The collar wrapped around his slender and perfect neck, and the buttons were meticulously fastened, making his smooth jawline particularly conspicuous. His eyebrows were high, and the eye sockets were deep. He was elegant and abstinent. He was really born very beautiful, and his appearance was astonishing. It wasn't that he was born with a feminine appearance, but the word beautiful was the most intuitive word. Some people were just good-looking, making you feel like they were a perfect piece of art. Song Yanqing was flawless from head to toe. He was also intelligent and was absolutely perfect. It seemed that he had been blessed by the heavens. Unfortunately, he was unlucky. His unlucky life was reflected in his body. His face was a little too pale, and even his lips had a bright red color. When Xiao Jin appeared there, he saw him at first glance. Her movements were not subtle. Song Yanqing's gaze happened to be in her position. If there was any movement, he would be able to see it without looking up. The moment he saw Xiao Jin, he did not panic. He lowered his eyes and quietly watched the girl walk over. When Xiao Jin walked to the balcony and looked up at him, he closed the book and stood up. He asked her faintly, "What are you doing here?" She definitely didn't come here through normal means. This was obvious. The Song family would not allow any woman to see him alone. There was no need for any marriage to happen to him. He was a sickly man and would only be a burden to other girls. Xiao Jin saw him. Unlike before, Song Yanqing was still full of death aura. But now, the death aura around him was scattered, and it was not as deep and heavy as before. But it was not a good thing. She looked at Song Yanqing and sighed slightly. "You can't hold on. After tonight, you will die." Today's birthday banquet was his last day. Song Yanqing heard this and did not panic at all. He just slightly raised the corner of his mouth. This time, the reason is a little fresh. Chapter 41. Last time, he was on the brink of death. This time, he would die after tonight. Song Yanqing sat down again with some excitement in his eyes. "So why do you want to see me, a dying man?" He usually didn't have contact with women. Even if Xiao Jin had some designs on him, he was no different from other people. He was sick and couldn't give him anything anyway. Xiao Jin's eyes lit up. "Mr. Song, you are about to die anyway. Why don't you do a good deed and let me touch you?" His death aura could only be received by physical contact. However, it was just a normal physical contact, even a touch of his finger would do. Song Yanqing felt that this request was a bit too much. "My body doesn't allow it." The straightforwardness of modern people was a little implicit. Song Yanqing raised his eyebrows in surprise at this shameless sentence. Therefore, he chose a different answer. Xiao Jin seemed to understand something and waved his hand. "No, just a touch of my finger is enough." A touch could draw a lot of death aura. The main thing was that this kind of thing was not continuous, but divided into periods. Xiao Jin could only draw so much death aura at one time. Next time, he had to wait for half a month. She could wait, but Song Yanqing couldn't. She could only do a good deed before he died. Xiao Jin's answer was like a fanatic fan facing his idol. A touch could make him so happy that he could ascend to heaven. When Song Yanqing was a little puzzled, the bodyguards downstairs heard their voices. They stood up and saw Xiao Jin. "You! How did you get here?" The bodyguard was shocked and immediately alarmed the others. There were several bodyguards guarding Song Yanqing's building, but most of the time, in order not to annoy the young master, they all hid. In addition, it was the Song family's own house. They didn't expect to let out a "fuck, it's that weirdo." She cursed their young master as a lunatic. One of them, who was particularly strong, obviously recognized her and flew into a rage. "Why are you here? What's wrong with the Mu family? How could they let you out? Someone like you should go to a mental hospital and recuperate." Xiao Jin wrinkled his nose. "You don't understand. I don't blame you. If you scold me again, I'll turn hostile." The bodyguard was so angry that he laughed. "Do I need to understand a lunatic like you? Hurry up and leave, or don't blame us for being rude." Xiao Jin didn't care. Anyway, your young master is going to die tonight. I just want him to do something good before he dies. Can't I? The bodyguard almost fainted when he heard that. What did you say? Tonight, I'll kill you. They had been by the young master's side for so long and were loyal to Song Yanqing. Now that they heard Qiao Jin's words, they couldn't wait to tear Qiao Jin into pieces. The most robust one didn't even care that Qiao Jin was a woman. He rushed up and wanted to teach her a lesson of love. Ah, the other one. An elegant and deep voice stopped him from moving. Forget it. She didn't mean it. Let her go back. Ah, the other one. Qiao Jin looked up. I have the heart to do so. Ah, the other one was exasperated. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and leave. Otherwise, do you believe that we won't beat you up? Do you think that we won't beat women because we're men? Qiao Jin, she looked at the other one deeply. After living for so many years, this was the first time that she had seen someone threaten to beat her up. She smiled. I'm afraid that you can't beat me. Ah, the other one, she was still provoking him. Chapter 42. Damn it. This woman actually dared to provoke him. Dan rolled up his sleeves, wanting to prove his dignity as a martial arts champion. But he was still stopped by Song Yanqing. Are you going to leave after touching her finger? Qiao Jin was just a girl. No matter what, he wouldn't watch his bodyguard hit a girl. Qiao Jin nodded. Yes. Leaving after a touch. She definitely wouldn't take advantage of him. Song Yanqing nodded. Then come up. Dan and the bodyguards. Dan's voice was very miserable. Young master, don't. How can such a woman touch your noble body? She doesn't even deserve to touch a strand of your hair. Qiao Jin lifted the hem of her skirt and went upstairs, giving Dan a cold smile. What era is this? Are you acting in a Qing dynasty drama? Dan, if Dan knew her true identity, he would definitely say that she had the nerve to talk about others. Qiao Jin went upstairs. Song Yanqing's room was just like his, elegant and clean. The furniture was very simple and elegant in the style of wood, with only some necessary modern facilities. The style of the room was also very similar. Overall, Song Yanqing really looked like a real young master raised by a big family. He was elegant and noble, not in the same world as others. Song Yanqing sat on the rattan chair by the balcony, not moving. Qiao Jin walked over, and Dan followed her closely. His gaze was like a radar, wanting to burn a hole in Qiao Jin's body. Qiao Jin walked in front of Song Yanqing, slowly reaching out his left hand. Slender and beautiful, with distinct joints and fair fingers. On his thumb, there was an expensive jade ring. It was jade green and looked very valuable. It was the most suitable for such a person. Wearing a ring on the thumb was a symbol of power and influence. Song Shiyin had high hopes for Song Yanqing. As long as nothing happened to him, the future of the Song family would only belong to Song Yanqing. If he hadn't found out that the shadow he saw on the bridge that day was Qiao Jin, he wouldn't have been like this. He didn't allow anyone to get close to him. But he wanted to know why this girl was the only ray of light in that world. Qiao Jin's movements were very fast. She meant what she said. Her fingers touched Song Yanqing's index finger for a short while before she retracted her hand. There was no other feeling, it was as if they had accidentally touched each other. The only difference was that Qiao Jin's fingers were hot while Song Yanqing's were cold. Dan looked at Qiao Jin's fingertip and almost to chop it. Young master had been defiled, young master had been defiled. Young master was defiled by a woman. His dirty, young master purified this woman. Qiao Jin sensed the massive deathly aura, and a joyful smile appeared on her face. She said sincerely, "Thank you." Song Yanqing nodded. "Is this enough?" Qiao Jin said, "Yes." She looked at Song Yanqing again and felt that it was a pity for him to die like this. If he was alive, she wouldn't have to spend so much effort to find the main materials for the array. But she wasn't interested in other people's grudges. If the Song family didn't look for her, she wouldn't ask for a snub. But it wasn't her style to take and leave. She thought for a moment and said, "Maybe you will look for me." Song Yanqing was full of death. She knew that he was going to die, but she couldn't see through his fate. Before Song Yanqing could answer, Dan was anxious. "You're dreaming in the middle of the night." Chapter 43. He pointed to the balcony. "If we look for you, I'll jump down from here." Xiao Jin glanced at the pool under the balcony. "The second floor is so low, and there's still a pool below. I won't die if I jump down. I can talk too." Dan, damn it. He could no longer suppress his violent heart. Song Yanqing raised his hand slightly. Dan, send her away." Dan could only hold his breath and reluctantly send Xiao Jin away. He must teach this woman a lesson while the young master didn't know. She tarnished their noble and perfect young master. When Muzichu saw that Xiao Jin was missing, he realized that something was wrong. He looked around but still didn't see any trace of Xiao Jin. He quickly walked over to his twin brother who was like a social butterfly. "Qi Lian, Xiao Jin is missing." Muzilian was impatient. "If she's missing, then she's missing." But his eyes still glanced around. "She doesn't know the way. Why is she running around? This is the Song family." As he spoke, the rich young man who was chatting with him became interested and quickly asked, "Xiao Jin is your sister?" Muzilian's face didn't look good. "Who's our sister?" "My mother gave birth to the three of us. She's just adopted." The rich young man smiled and said, "She's been raised by your mother for so long. If she's not your sister, then what is she?" Muzilian retorted, "Get lost. Let's not talk about this first." Muzichu was still a little worried. "Let's find her first. Otherwise, Mom will be worried." Xiao Fei was afraid that Xiao Jin would run around and cause trouble. Muzichu and the others looked around. It was strange. There were people everywhere in the huge banquet hall. They simply asked the guests in all directions, but no one knew where Xiao Jin went. In other words, Xiao Jin had disappeared right under their noses. Muzichu's expression was cold, and Muzilian was also a little worried. Where did she go? He wasn't worried that something would happen to Xiao Jin. He was worried that Xiao Jin wasn't familiar with this place and might offend someone. After all, he knew that there was something wrong with her brain. They looked around. In fact, Xiao Jin hadn't been gone for long. Soon, when Dan sent Xiao Jin back, they saw him. Muzichu walked over and looked at Xiao Jin. He frowned and asked, "Where have you been?" Xiao Jin said, "I went to gather some wool." Muzichu and Muzilian, the two of them looked at each other, not knowing what Xiao Jin was talking about. How could there be any wool for her to pluck? Although Dan had sent Xiao Jin out, he didn't have a good temper. He couldn't hold back his anger. As soon as he sent him over, he immediately complained to Song Maiyin. But he also knew that if he said what Xiao Jin said, the Mu family wouldn't be able to get away with it today. He didn't want the young master's 25th birthday banquet to be ruined, so he only said that Xiao Jin had run to Song Yanqing's yard for no reason. Song Maiyin's expression darkened when she heard this. If he knew what Xiao Jin said, he would probably fight with Mu Junming right there and then. If it were someone else, it would be fine, but it was Song Yanqing, his only son. He couldn't ignore this matter. In addition, last time, she had reported that Xiao Jin couldn't think before speaking. Song Maiyin found Mu Junming and told him about this matter alone. Because he was angry, his tone wasn't very good. He tried his best to maintain his self-restraint, but his words were inevitably filled with criticism. When Mu Junming found out about this, his sharp gaze landed on Xiao Jin, who was by the side of the stage. Chapter 44. When Mu Junming's face darkened, he still looked a little scary. Muzichu and Muzilian saw it. Muzilian's bones trembled. "Dad knows." Muzichu's face was cold. "I don't know. I don't think so." He's talking to Uncle Song. Then, he looked over. It could only be said that Xiao Jin had done something to attract the Song family's attention. However, Xiao Jin looked innocent and even went to the table to get a cake. "Xiao Chu, which cake is delicious?" Muzichu, Muzilian, she was really brave. In the Mu family, they were afraid of their father's dark face. Because something big would definitely happen. Then, the Song family's banquet officially began. Song Yanqing also showed his face, which attracted everyone's attention. Many rich girls couldn't help but look infatuated. He simply thanked everyone for coming to the birthday banquet and didn't say anything else. Then, he went back. This was the meaning of the birthday banquet to him. He just needed to thank everyone. After the banquet, everyone went home one after another. Mu Zhenming's face didn't look good from the moment he got into the car. Xiao Fei was a little worried. "What's wrong, hubby?" Mu Zhenming's eyes locked onto Xiao Jin. Xiao Fei sat in the front passenger seat and glanced at Xiao Jin. "What's wrong with Jin?" Xiao Jin took the initiative and said slowly, "Zhenming, you're the chairman of a big company. You can't just look at the surface. You have to be calm. After tonight, you can talk to me if you have any questions." Mu Zhenming, he was the chairman, but he was lectured on the spot. Mu Zilian couldn't help but want to say that this Xiao guy was really awesome. Because of Xiao Fei, Mu Zhenming couldn't help but sneer. "It seems like you know what you've done." Xiao Fei was worried. "What did Jin do?" Xiao Jin sat down and confessed, "I went to look for Song Yanqing." Xiao Fei, she almost screamed out loud. Even Mu Zichu and Mu Zilian looked at Xiao Jin in disbelief. Xiao Fei restrained himself and stammered, You. What did you do?" "Xiao Jin, we caught up." Everyone from the Mu family was speechless. "You and Song Yanqing have nothing to talk about." Fortunately, they were in the car, so Mu Zhenming didn't lose his temper. Once they reached home, he said to Xiao Fei, "I don't have the right to control her. You take care of her yourself." Xiao Fei felt like crying. How could I care? Seeing that their father was angry, the Mu brothers were not interested in asking the reason and returned to their respective rooms. Xiao Fei looked at Xiao Jin with tears in her eyes. "Jin," before she could finish, Xiao Jin waved his hand. "It's nothing. We'll talk about it after tonight. Fei Fei, go to rest. Go comfort Zhenming. Don't let him get angry. He's almost 50 years old. Take care of yourself." Xiao Fei, you know it too. However, she was weak and didn't dare to care about Xiao Jin, who had a mental problem now. When everyone in the Mu family was restless, an urgent call came to the Mu family at 12:30 in the middle of the night. It wasn't Xiao Jin's call. It was Mu Zhenming who received a call from the Song family. The call was from the Song family's bodyguard. He said in a flustered and respectful tone, "Mr. Mu, can you ask your daughter Xiao Jin to come to the Song family's hospital?" Mu Zhenming didn't know why, but since it was a call from the Song family, he asked the servant to find Xiao Jin. However, when the servant went to find her, Xiao Jin had changed into casual clothes and went out directly. Mu Zhenming couldn't sleep now. He and Xiao Fei both woke up and wondered what had happened to the Song family. Chapter 45. Something big had indeed happened to the Song family. That night, it was Song Yanqing's birthday. His father, Song Shiyin, even chatted with his son for a while because it was a special day. Although Song Yanqing's body was weak, he didn't show any excessive signs, so Song Shiyin was very happy to discuss the future with him. At about 10 o'clock, he told Song Yanqing to go to bed early. His life was very regular, and it was a healthy routine. But Song Yanqing didn't want to sleep that night. To be exact, his sleepiness was extremely abnormal. Even when he was working, he didn't feel so sleepy when he wanted to. He didn't know why, but he didn't sleep with one eye open. There was a vase beside the bed, and his mind was always thinking about Xiao Jin's words. "After tonight, you will die." It was just nonsense from a girl. She acted like a crazy person. No one would believe her. Song Yanqing couldn't help but think about it. He had thought that he might die, but he had survived for so many years. Dan slept next to his bedroom. Because he had to pay attention to Song Yanqing's movements, the room wasn't soundproof. This was to let Dan hear if there was any abnormal movement in Song Yanqing's room. The Song family was afraid that something would happen to him. Dan was also very careful. He tried not to disturb Song Yanqing. He didn't even dare to play with his phone. He could be called the representative of modern bodyguards. His life was very healthy. He kept his eyes open, resisting the extremely strong sleepiness. The clock on the wall was slowly moving forward. Lying alone, quietly counting the time, that kind of process was very torturous. When he finally endured until the minute hand and the hour hand pointed to 12 o'clock, a suffocating force invaded his neck. In the endless night, demons ran amok, grinning maliciously at him. The time was up. The pain this time was different from before. Song Yanqing deeply realized that he might die. His entire body was cold, and he lost all his strength at that moment. He used up all his strength and trembled as he placed his trembling fingers on the vase and pushed it down. Dong! The vase fell to the ground and shattered into pieces, making a loud sound. The other jumped up from the bed almost instantly. Song Yanqing's bed was covered with a blanket. Anything that fell to the ground would not make a sound. He had the foresight to ask someone to move it away today. When he was really about to die, perhaps it was some kind of premonition, but he was still somewhat unwilling and made a final effort. Even though he didn't know if it would be useful. The moment the vase came crashing down, he closed his eyes and his body fell limply. That night, the Song family could hardly sleep. Song Yanqing was sent to the hospital. When Dan saw Song Yanqing's pale face, he realized that something was wrong. He immediately arranged for Song Yanqing to be sent to the hospital and informed the rest of the Song family. Song Yang didn't even put on his clothes when he woke up. The moment he saw his son, he almost fainted. A thick shadow covered the heads of the Song family. At that moment, everyone realized that Song Yanqing's illness was different from usual. The Song family had a family doctor, but during the examination, the doctor's face was pale. Song Yanqing's breathing was extremely weak. There were even a few times when he stopped breathing for a long time. Like a person who was about to drown, he seemed to be struggling non-stop. Chapter 46. They sent Song Yanqing to the hospital as quickly as possible. This was no longer something the family doctor could handle. When they arrived at the hospital, they entered the emergency room. However, they couldn't find out the reason. They could only see that Song Yanqing's vital functions were almost gone. All of his organs were showing signs of stopping working. This was already a sign of death. They could only tell this news to Song Shiyin. The specialists were trembling. Outside, Mrs. Song was crying so hard that she almost fainted. The Song family had all rushed over one after another. In the midst of the chaos, Bing's body turned cold as he thought of what Xiao Jin had said during the day. As a modern person, he didn't believe in these things. However, his mind was completely blank now. His hands were numb, but he called the Mu family with trembling hands. He was just a bodyguard. When he called the other party's house, the butler who answered the phone quickly transferred the call to Mu Zhenming. Then, Xiao Jin directly left the house. The entire capital was abnormally oppressive tonight. When Xiao Jin rushed to the hospital, she could barely see the death aura. The death aura was dissipating, which meant that Song Yanqing was almost done for. When she arrived at the hospital, a Rolls-Royce was parked at the entrance, but it wasn't driven by the Song family. She glanced over and quickly rushed into the hospital. At this moment, Song Yanqing was on the floor where the emergency room was. When Mrs. Song heard that Song Yanqing was beyond saving, she fainted. 2 minutes ago, the hospital announced that Song Yanqing had stopped breathing. The Song family couldn't accept this fact at all. Song Shirin's eyes were open. She hadn't fainted yet, but her mind had completely stopped. At this moment, she didn't even know who she was. Song Yanqing had an older sister who was beautiful and elegant. She had specially rushed back for the birthday banquet. At this moment, she was holding the unconscious Mrs. Song with an ashen face. Bing knelt on the ground, tears streaming down his face. He had been selected to accompany Song Yanqing since he was young. He had also learned all the education that Song Yanqing had. He relied on Song Yanqing to gain the favor of the Song family. He was extremely talented in martial arts and stayed under Song Yanqing's protection. Since young, he had been treated as a brother by Song Yanqing. The two of them had a very good relationship. However, he had never thought that Song Yanqing would die at the age of 25. Young master was still so young. He was so powerful and smart, so why was the heavens so unfair? When Xiao Jin came up from the elevator, he was not allowed to enter. However, when he said that he could save Song Yanqing, the hesitant bodyguard let him in. She didn't go out in a hurry. She was just wearing jeans and a sports jacket. It was casual and tight. She looked like she was out for a night run. When she appeared, the grieving Song family didn't notice. However, when she walked directly through the crowd to the emergency room, a bodyguard noticed. "May I ask who you are and what are you doing?" Song Shireen's wooden reaction was also awakened by this voice. Just as he looked over, he saw Ah Bing stand up. Although there were tears on his face, there was a hint of trembling surprise. I called. His voice was choked. "The hospital said that young master has already." Qiao Jin waved his hand. "Get ready to jump off the balcony." This sentence stunned Ah Bing for a moment, but he quickly reacted. Then, he fell into ecstasy. Could it be that young master could still be saved? Chapter 47. No one could say that anyone could pull a dying person back from the brink of death. The hospital could only try their best to save him, even though they knew that Song Yanqing had already breathed his last. A girl suddenly barged into the emergency room. The nurse's expression changed drastically. "Who are you?" "The patient's family members can't come in yet." Although they had informed the hospital that he was dying, they still had to save him. It might be useless, but the hospital couldn't bear the despair and anger of the Song family. Qiao Jin raised her finger. "Get out. You can't save him, but I can." She walked to the bedside. Song Yanqing, who was lying on the bed, had already turned grey. It was the face of a dead person. What others couldn't see was that there were a few tall and strange demons at the edge of his body, eyeing him covetously. Under the doctor's stunned gaze, Qiao Jin touched Song Yanqing's grey face. At least his skin was still so smooth. "Miss, you can't do this." Seeing Qiao Jin touch him directly, the medical staff couldn't help but come forward to push Qiao Jin out. The chief surgeon was the internationally renowned Professor Zhong Lian. He was already old and was Song Yanqing's attending physician. He held the scalpel and didn't stop Qiao Jin. He only said slowly, "He's already dead." He was just stating a fact. After experiencing so much and seeing countless life and death situations, even if Song Yanqing's identity was special, he wouldn't treat him differently. He was already dead. There was nothing he could do about it. Everyone in this ward was an internationally renowned doctor. It was also them who didn't stop Qiao Jin. Since Qiao Jin could come in, she might be a member of the Song family. They thought that Qiao Jin was just overly grieving. The moment the medical staff was about to pull Qiao Jin, she turned her head and said coldly, "Don't get in my way." She looked like an ordinary little girl, but when she said that, she had an air of superiority. It was like an order from a person of high status. It actually made people's blood freeze, and they couldn't move. She ignored these people and quickly tapped Song Yanqing's facial features with her fingers. Then, she used a scalpel in the operating room to cut her finger. Blood gushed out and dripped onto Song Yanqing's lips. His lips had already lost their color. Now that they were stained with blood, they looked strange and enchanting. "Who are you?" Outside, Song Shiyin also rushed in. It was only now that she realized that Qiao Jin was a stranger. He didn't want anything to happen to his son before he died. He rushed into the emergency room and saw this scene. Blood dripped onto Song Yanqing's lips. Qiao Jin used his bleeding finger to draw a simple pattern on Song Yanqing's face. It looked simple, but it made people dizzy. The medical staff couldn't understand, but the demons next to Song Yanqing had a bad feeling. They opened their mouths and roared. It was like the whispers of demons. Listening to it could make people have nightmares for 3 days and 3 nights. Qiao Jin changed the pattern and said slowly, "Don't roar. It's so annoying. You want his soul? Okay, come out and hit me." Hearing this, the demons roared even more. The Luosha world and the human world were different spaces. If they could come out, they wouldn't use such a laborious method. But the people in the ward didn't know what she was talking about. Song Shiyin saw Qiao Jin's actions and was furious. "What are you doing to my son?" Chapter 48. What are you doing? Don't you want your son to live? Song Shiyin was taken aback by his words. After she finished drawing, she held Song Yanqing's hand and closed her eyes. Her index finger was gently caressing Song Yanqing's lips. She closed her eyes as if she was silently praying. Soon, even the medical staff saw that something was wrong. The pattern she drew on Song Yanqing's face with blood gradually sank into Song Yanqing's cheek. The mark was visibly fading. At the same time, his face began to become lively. It was even a little better than before, when he looked sick. Everyone was stunned by this scene. What era was this magical plot? Song Shirin's eyes widened, and her whole body trembled. When the Song family members wanted to rush in from behind, Song Shiyin didn't know what to think. She quickly ordered Ah Tong, "Close the door." Ah Tong subconsciously paid attention to the door of the emergency room. He knew very well that this scene absolutely couldn't be seen by others. As Song Yanqing's body became lively again, the demons surrounding him roared unwillingly, but they had no choice but to retreat. Before they left, they looked at Qiao Jin with vicious eyes. In the end, they turned into black smoke and dissipated behind the wall. And others couldn't see it. Song Yanqing's fingers suddenly trembled slightly, and the instrument began to make a crisp sound. It meant that the patient's vital functions were detected. Zhong Lian and the other doctors looked at each other. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. Song Shirin's eyes turned red. Yanqing, her voice was filled with excitement. Her heart, which had been hanging in the air in despair, finally fell to the ground. Song Yanqing's eyes had gently opened. His eyebrows were deep, and his eyes were as dark as ink. They were bright and charming. He turned his eyes and first saw Qiao Jin holding his hand. His hand was cold. At this moment, he felt more and more how warm Qiao Jin's hand was. Qiao Jin's eyes were still closed. At this moment, she opened her eyes and met Song Yanqing's gaze. She smiled faintly. "You're awake." Song Yanqing didn't know that he had just stepped into the gates of hell, but he probably realized what had happened. He smiled softly and said, "It seems that I was right." Qiao Jin wasn't lying either. Song Shiyin walked forward and said in a trembling voice, "Guanqing." Song Yanqing looked at Song Yiyin with a sickly smile. "Dad." Song Weiyin's tears flowed out of her eyes when she heard him call her father. Qiao Jin let go of his hand, and he immediately looked at Qiao Jin. Qiao Jin stepped back, and the doctors looked at each other, but they still went forward to examine Song Yanqing's body. When Zhong Lian saw that Song Yanqing's body was normal except for the lower values, Zhong Lian nodded slowly. A medical miracle. Everyone else, how could this be explained by medical miracles? Just now, this girl had used a strange method to bring back a person who had already breathed his last, alive. The blood on Song Yanqing's face had completely disappeared. Who would believe that this was a medical miracle? This was magic. Song Shiyin wasn't an ordinary person, after all. He had many questions to ask Qiao Jin, but definitely not now. He remembered every face in the room and wiped away his tears. His face was cold and serious. "I don't want anyone to talk about what happened today." All the doctors trembled. Who would dare to talk about it? Qiao Jin didn't care. "It's okay. It's okay if they talk about it. They'll suffer backlash if they talk about it." This was her business. If there were any serious consequences, they would be blamed for it. All the doctors. Chapter 49. Backlash. Such a word was too scary. Also, the scene that happened just now had completely refreshed the doctor's worldview. Azan closed the door. The Song family was waiting anxiously outside. Song Yinghong asked the doctor to send Song Yanqing back to the VIP ward and not let anyone disturb him. She had a lot of things to figure out. In the past, Song Yanqing was just physically weak. How could he be on the verge of death now? And now, he was saved by Qiao Jin in a magical way. Song Yinghong went out to announce this. "It's okay. Yanqing has been saved." Song Yanqing's sister, Song Suyu, suddenly stood up and looked at Song Yinghong with wide eyes. "Dad, is it true? The doctor had just said that he was dead. Why did he say that he was saved now?" Song Yinghong nodded. "He's awake," as he spoke, Dan and the medical staff pushed Song Yanqing out of the room. The Song family saw Song Yanqing lying on the bed. Although he was haggard, he was clearly awake. Some people in the crowd were stunned. Some cried with joy. Song Yanqing's mother had fainted and was being sent for treatment. Song Suyu stood up. When she saw Song Yanqing, her tears fell. Yanqing, it's great that you're okay. Although the doctor had told Song Yanqing that he was dead, he must have been saved after treatment. Such situations often happened in the hospital. However, others also noticed Qiao Jin, who shouldn't have been there. Song Yanqing looked at her and smiled faintly. Sister, I'm fine. He looked around. Because of his sudden accident, many people from the Song family had come. Song Yinghong said, he just went through emergency treatment and needs to rest. He's fine now. Thank you for coming. You can go back now. We'll stay here tonight. The others were the other relatives of the Song family. Even if they felt suspicious and had other thoughts, they didn't dare to say it. Song Yiyin asked the driver to send everyone back one by one, leaving only herself and Song Suyu behind. In the ward, all the doctors had left. Only Qiao Jin, Song Suyu, Song Weiyin, and Song Yanqing were left in the well-protected ward. A stood guard outside the ward to prevent others from entering. Song Shiyin saw Qiao Jin's weird tricks, but she wasn't surprised. She just looked at Qiao Jin with a complicated expression. I would like to ask what is going on with my son. Song Suyu was a little confused. She didn't recognize Qiao Jin and only saw Qiao Jin enter the ward. At this moment, she looked at the two of them and said, Dad, this is... Song Shiyin explained briefly to Song Suyu, this is Mu Zhenming's daughter, Qiao Jin. Song Suyu knew Mu Zhenming and had probably heard about his wife. At this moment, he was a little enlightened. She was elegant and noble. Her eyes were still a little red. She said to Qiao Jin, Miss Qiao, hello. Qiao Jin just nodded faintly. At this moment, she looked at Song Shiyin with some interest. Don't you think this doesn't make sense? Normally, after seeing her use such a method, the first thing that would happen would be shock, right? Song Shiyin didn't seem that surprised. Song Shiyin sighed. In my position, I will always encounter things that ordinary people can't understand. I've seen similar things before, so I'm not surprised. It was obvious that she had seen such a situation before. Chapter 50. Song Yanqing was also awake. He was leaning against a pillow, looking a little better than when he was admitted. Hearing Song Shirin's words, he opened his eyes, a little surprised. Song Yanqing had seen things that ordinary people couldn't understand, but he had never said it out loud. What had his father seen? Qiao Jin nodded and smiled. Since you understand, then it's easy to talk about it. I only want to ask you one thing, Mr. Song. Did you find someone to check the feng shui of your Song family's ancestral home again decades ago? The Song family's ancestral home was where they lived now. Song Shiyin looked a little surprised. How, did you know? Qiao Jin nodded. Then I understand. You've been tricked. Song Shiyin was speechless. His expression immediately stiffened. Song Suyu and Song Yanqing didn't know much about the Song family's past. After all, not many people in their generation believed in these things. They didn't know much about the past. Besides, Song Shiyin wouldn't say it out loud. Song Shiyin said firmly, that's impossible. He said it with certainty. Qiao Jin chuckled. If you think it's impossible, then why do you think Song Yanqing is the only boy in the Song family after so many years? Song Shirin's pupils shrank. Indeed, the Song family had many relatives, but even distant relatives had given birth to girls. It was too strange in this society. That was why Song Yanqing had been so nervous for so many years after his birth. Song Suyu became more and more confused. So you're saying that the Song family has always given birth to girls because the feng shui is bad? But Dad, what era is this? Her father had studied abroad before. How could he still believe these things? Song Shiyin interrupted him. Suyu, don't talk nonsense if you don't understand. He had seen it with his own eyes, so he avoided some things. Song Yanqing thought of the demon that only he could see. He lowered his eyes in silence and didn't speak rashly. He could tell that his father had many questions that he wanted answers to from Qiao Jin. Qiao Jin glanced at Song Yanqing and said, "When I first met your son, I didn't know what the problem was. Now I know. Logically speaking, the fortune of your Song family should be incomparably glorious. The fortune accumulated by the ancestors of the Song family is enough for your Song family to continue for another 100 years. Your son, Song Yanqing, is a dragon among men. He is blessed by the heavens and is a very rare son of fortune. And the glory that your Song family wants to continue depends on him." Song Shiyin suddenly looked at Qiao Jin. "You mean?" Qiao Jin smirked. "His birth chart has been swapped. The person who gave you the feng shui did something and set up a fate sealing array in your Song family's ancestral home. The fate sealing array is something that only array masters can do. It is used to change fate charts. Changing fate charts is something that defies the heavens. Since it can be done, the other party's identity must not be simple. Moreover, you must know who he is." Song Shirin's face turned pale. He seemed to have heard something that was difficult to bear. He lost his balance and took 2 steps back. Song Suyu's eyes widened. Swapped fate charts, was there really such a thing as fate in this world? Song Yanqing heard it, but he remained calm. His expression didn't change much. Chapter 51. Qiao Jin put his hands behind his back and looked at Song Maiyin, who had an ugly expression. He found it interesting. If she hadn't seen that Song Yanqing's life providence wasn't right when she saved him, it would probably have taken her some time to discover it. Song Yanqing's life providence was a very rare and unparalleled life providence. Such a life providence was a combination of the heavens and the earth. Even from Qiao Jin's era, it was very rare to see one. However, in every era, there would definitely be someone with such a life providence. Life providence was like karma. It was a person's fate and couldn't be easily touched. The most important price to pay for swapping life providences was the end of one's lineage. Future generations of people with related bloodlines would be implicated. Their fates would be as bitter as they could be. They would become the most despicable people in the world. This was especially so for Song Yanqing's life providence. Once it was swapped, he would definitely suffer a huge backlash. However, his bloodline would begin to implicate him. However, to exchange it at such a price. The story behind this was worth discussing. Song Yanqing roughly understood. Looking at his father's expression, he looked at Qiao Jin and said in a low and gentle voice, "Do you mean that my body wasn't this weak in the first place?" Qiao Jin thought for a moment and said, "Your life providence is too strong. The other party stole your providence and swapped your life providence. You should have died when the other party swapped your life providence. The fact that you can live until now is already thanks to the Song family's ancestors' protection." Song Maiyin snapped back to her senses and looked at Qiao Jin. She was somewhat excited. "Then, can my son be saved?" Qiao Jin was very direct. "If I didn't save him, I wouldn't have saved him. 25 years old is his limit. The person who swapped life providence wants your son to die at 25 years old. That way, he can better use your son's providence. But now, I've saved him. If your son doesn't die, the other party's providence will start to become abnormal. Why don't you pay attention to anyone in your Song family who's abnormal?" When she said this, she had a faint smile, but it made Song Meiyin's hair stand on end. Back then, the feng shui master had been brought back by someone from the Song family. If it weren't for the cooperation of the Song family, how could such a thing have happened? Song Maiyin obviously knew who it was. Qiao Jin had almost guessed the process of this matter. Now that someone in the Song family knew that Song Yanqing was not dead, they must be panicking. Song Suyu understood everything now. Although she didn't really believe in these things, Qiao Jin said it so naturally that it made her hair stand on end. Someone had actually stolen her younger brother's fate, and her younger brother was not supposed to be like this. What kind of vicious heart was this? Song Suyu covered his mouth. His tears were about to fall uncontrollably again. After listening to Qiao Jin's words, Song Weiyin couldn't stop trembling. After a long while, He used his years of temperament to restrain himself. I'll investigate it. He looked at Xiao Jin and took a deep breath. Miss Xiao. There was a hint of respect in his tone. I know that people in your line of work will suffer karma for doing such things. As long as you can help my son, just say what you need from us. Clearly, Song Wei-yin had come into contact with similar people in the past. Now, he treated Xiao Jin as an existence like the other party. Xiao Jin waved his hand. There's no need. Your son has already paid. Song Yanqing was stunned. There was a hint of curiosity in his eyes. What did I pay? Chapter 52. The aura of death on you. Xiao Jin was very direct. Your aura of death is very strong. Saving you now will only temporarily delay your life. The other party won't give up. I can help you resolve it now, but you can't pay the price in one go. We can only take it slow and find out who stole your life providence. Everything had a corresponding price. Xiao Jin could help them resolve it in one go, but the price wasn't something they could afford. If they resolved it, there would be an even heavier backlash. Xiao Jin didn't want money, but karma. Therefore, this matter had to be taken slowly. Aura of death. He savored this word and revealed a faint smile. When he smiled, there was a particularly soul-stirring beauty. If he wasn't sick and weak, one could imagine how peerless he would be after he recovered. Song Yanqing didn't understand many of the words she said, but he felt that he had a chance. A chance to come into contact with an unknown world. Perhaps he would be able to learn from Xiao Jin what kind of existence the terrifying world he had seen was. After hearing Xiao Jin's explanation, Song Shiyin was a little nervous. Are you saying that Guanqing will have the same problem as today? Xiao Jin said, with me guarding him, it won't happen for a while. Now that your son isn't dead, the other party's backlash has already begun. He can't withstand it and will be exposed sooner or later. There was one thing she didn't mention. According to her observations, the array masters of this world didn't have the ability to create such a powerful fate-sealing array. Song Yanqing's life providence was something she wouldn't touch. Since the other party had touched it and succeeded, there must be an even stronger existence behind it. She suspected that it might be her sworn enemy. However, even if she told Song Shiyin, he couldn't deal with an existence of that level. Therefore, Xiao Jin wanted to see if it was as she thought. Song She was relieved to hear that. He said politely in a low voice, Miss Xiao, sorry to trouble you. Xiao Jin's identity was Mu Zhenming's daughter. However, he didn't ask why Xiao Jin had such an ability. Song Maiyin had interacted with those people before and knew that there were some existences that ordinary people like them could not pry into. Even if Xiao Jin's identity as Mu Zhenming's daughter made him suspicious, he wouldn't ask about it. As long as she could keep his son alive. Xiao Jin waved his hand. You're welcome. He was just doing his job. After she was done, she had to return to the Mu family. After all, she still had to deal with Qiao Fei and the others later. Song Suyu was very curious about her, but because his father was present, there were many things he couldn't ask. When Xiao Jin was about to leave, Song Yanqing, who was sitting on the bed, suddenly called out to her. You are Xiao Jin? Xiao Jin turned to look at him. Song Yanqing was very down-to-earth and took out his phone. Do you have WeChat? Let's add each other as friends. Song Suyu was a little surprised. Her brother looked peaceful, but he was actually quite cold in private. He didn't like to interact with others, but he actually took the initiative to add others as friends. Xiao Jin thought for a moment. Oh, I do. You can add me. She took out her phone. Naturally, she had registered WeChat before. It was a very playful and cute cartoon profile picture of a child. It was the style she liked in the past, and the name was very cute. It's Jin Jinyo. Song Yanqing was a little surprised when he saw the profile picture and name. It didn't seem to match Xiao Jin's current image at all, but it was a little cute. Chapter 53. Song Yanqing smiled faintly and added Xiao Jin. Done. Xiao Jin also noticed her name, but she didn't feel anything special. WeChat was just a channel for communication. As for changing her name, well, it was too troublesome. Even if it was just moving her fingers, Qiao Jin found it troublesome. Qiao Jin's WeChat circle of friends was very monotonous. Most of them were her friends from school. Although Qiao Jin didn't have any close friends in school, she was good-looking and many people took the opportunity to add her. She didn't want to embarrass others, so she still had a lot of friends on WeChat. Most of them were boys. Qiao Jin had set up a WeChat message block, so there wouldn't be any notifications. When she went online, she saw that many people had sent her messages. Very few people knew about her suicide, and some of them were messages left by boys. Qiao Jin used to be a kind person and rarely rejected people. Although she didn't leave any ambiguous words for people to imagine, many people confessed to her on WeChat. She hadn't gone to class for almost half a month, so she naturally didn't reply to any of the messages. Some boys thought that she did it on purpose and were very rude. Qiao Jin took a quick look and rolled her eyes without batting an eyelid. Then she deleted all her WeChat friends. Song Yanqing noticed Qiao Jin's roll of eyes and smiled. "Did I cause you trouble? Was it so difficult for him to add her as a friend?" Seeing this, Song Suyu suddenly pulled Song Maiyin out. "Dad, I have something to tell you." Song Maiyin didn't suspect anything. After all, Song Suyu did have a lot of things he wanted to know. Qiao Jin was deleting her friends and said, "No, I just have too many unfamiliar friends. I don't really know them." Song Yanqing replied with a grunt. Qiao Jin deleted everyone quickly, leaving only Song Yanqing. What was left behind now was the most valuable. But Qiao Fei seemed to have added him. "Well, whatever, I'll just add it back when the time comes." After he was done, Qiao Jin said, "You'll be fine now. If there's anything unusual, contact me." Just as she was about to leave, she suddenly thought of something and said, "Oh right, I'll pay you half a month." The price was clearly stated, and the death aura would be extracted once every half a month. Song Yanqing paused for a moment and then curled his lips. "Were you getting paid for touching my finger last night?" Qiao Jin snapped his fingers. Smart. Song Yanqing was able to think of it, but it was difficult for others to think of it. He didn't know what Qiao Jin was holding when he touched his finger. Death Qi. It didn't sound like a good thing. Song Yanqing said, "Okay. You can come and get it any time." This was the deal between the two of them. After Qiao Jin left, Song Yanqing's smile faded. He lowered his eyes, and the starlight in his obsidian-like eyes shone even brighter. Walking through the gates of hell had some impact on him. However, because he was unconscious, he didn't feel much. Now that he had heard some things from Qiao Jin that he had never heard of before, he couldn't resist his curiosity. There would always be a chance to figure it out slowly. As for the person who had switched his fate behind his back, his expression gradually turned cold. Just as Qiao Jin had said, there was always a price to pay for doing such a thing. Chapter 54. When Qiao Jin returned home, Mu Zhenming and Qiao Fei had already gotten up in the living room. The Song family had called the Mu family and told them that Qiao Jin was in the hospital, so Qiao Fei didn't call to urge Qiao Jin. She was sent back by the Song family. When Qiao Fei saw Qiao Jin coming back, she was still a little sad. "Jin, tell me, did the Song family beat you?" Qiao Jin, she was a little amused. "Fei Fei, do you think the Song family would do this?" Qiao Fei, I think they would do it. It was mainly because what his daughter said after she woke up was too annoying. Mu Zhenming frowned and looked at Qiao Jin. What did you do in the Song family? It was nothing more than Mu Zhenming's concern. As long as this matter was related to the Song family, Mu Zhenming felt bad. The Mu family was in the stage of rapid development. It was not wise to offend others at this time, but it was not wise to offend the Song family. "I just went to discuss something. There was no accident, and I didn't offend the Song family. Fei Fei, Zhenming, you can rest assured." Qiao Jin waved her hand. "It's too late now. Go back to sleep. If there is anything, you will hear about it tomorrow. But don't ask me. I don't want to explain. You won't understand even if I explain. This is a secret, and the Song family doesn't want you to know." In a word, She had reached an unspeakable deal with the Song family. Qiao Fei and Mu Junming, they looked at each other and felt that Qiao Jin was seriously ill. How could she have a secret with the Song family? Qiao Jin was a 20-year-old girl. When they wanted to continue asking, Qiao Jin waved her hand. Don't ask. I'm tired. I'm going to rest. Qiao Fei and Mu Junming, seeing Qiao Jin go up, Qiao Fei lay in Mu Junming's arms and said worriedly, the child has grown up. I can't control him anymore. She doesn't even tell me what's on her mind now. Sob 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 sob. Mu Junming was silent for a moment before he said, perhaps it's the rebellious stage. Moreover, it wasn't that Qiao Jin was out of his mind recently. In short, it wasn't easy to speculate with normal thinking. Qiao Fei looked up in surprise with tears in her eyes. Will there still be a rebellious period at the age of 20? Mu Junming, there are people in their 60s, let alone 20. My dad is also very rebellious now. Qiao Fei, Qiao Jin returned to her room and slept until the sun was up. Qiao Jin woke up on time for breakfast even though he slept late last night. The news about the Song family had already spread. After all, so many members of the Song family had gone over last night. It was impossible to hide it even if he wanted to. The fact that Song Yanqing came back to life after the doctor announced that he had died shocked a considerable number of people. Some people didn't believe it and thought it was just a mistake by the doctor. In addition, in the history of medicine, there had been cases of people coming back to life after being dead for dozens of minutes. It might just be a fake death. Maybe it was because of Song Jian. The news that Qiao Jin went to the hospital last night didn't spread. When Qiao Jin came down for breakfast with a yawn, Mu Junming looked at him several times with deep eyes. Not only did the Song family not pursue the matter, but Song Jian also called early in the morning to thank him. Although he didn't make it clear what she was thanking him for. He didn't tell Qiao Fei about it. He only said that the Song family wouldn't make trouble for Qiao Jin. Only then did Qiao Fei feel relieved. He had been in the business world for so many years. He could tell that something was wrong with some things. Since Song Jian called in person, it proved that Qiao Jin was not what he thought. That was enough. Chapter 55. Musilian was a natural sleeper. As long as he did not have classes, he would not wake up early in the morning. Musichu, on the other hand, took the initiative to speak at the dining table. Dad, I heard that Brother Yanqing was hospitalized last night. Mu Junming glanced at his phone naturally and acknowledged softly. I heard that it is serious. You can go to the hospital after you have no classes in the afternoon. The Song family and the Mu family knew each other, so they were close. It was normal for him to ask his son to visit Song Yunxian. Musichu acknowledged. Okay. Last night, the Song family had only called to ask Qiao Jin to go over. Qiao Fei did not know the details. When she heard that Song Yanqing was hospitalized, her eyelids twitched violently. This had nothing to do with Qiao Jin's curse, right? Qiao Jin ate his breakfast in silence. Musichu glanced at Qiao Jin and said, Mom, Qiao Jin has almost recovered. Is it time for him to go to school? Huh? Qiao Fei looked at Qiao Jin hesitantly. Yeah. Jin, do you want to go back to school? Although she felt that Qiao Jin was not suitable to go to school, she could not point out exactly what was wrong with him. She still had to go to school. Otherwise, Qiao Jin would not be able to graduate. After all, she was part of the Mu family now. Qiao Jin glanced at Musichu and Qiao Fei before she said casually, go ahead. She did not mind. Qiao Fei nodded and said, then I'll call the teacher later. Chi-Chu, take your sister to school after dinner. Musichu did not object. Instead, he acknowledged softly. Okay. Although Musichu and Musilian were twins, they majored in different subjects and had different classes. Qiao Jin majored in linguistics and majored in German. He also studied English and French. He was still quite outstanding. It was just that his mentality changed later on, and he fell behind in the school curriculum. He was not particularly outstanding among his peers. She was now studying in a key university, Musichu and Musilian's school. Back then, it was also Qiao Fei who asked Mu Junming to get her in. She hadn't come to class for almost half a month. The curriculum in this kind of school was actually very heavy, especially since Qiao Jin was studying several languages. If not for her relationship with the Mu family, she would have been expelled from the school long ago. This was not the first time he had taken a leave of absence. In the past 6 months, Qiao Jin's performance in school was not outstanding, and he often missed work for no reason. The Mu family's chauffeur sent them to school. On the way, Qiao Jin did not say a word to Muzichu. It was mainly because Muzichu was a man of few words. When they arrived at school, Muzichu took the initiative to say, after returning to school, "You have to find the class director to report your leave of absence." She had taken such a long leave of absence. When she returned to school, not only did Qiao Fei call her, she also had to report it herself. Qiao Jin nodded. "Thank you for the reminder, Muzichu." They got off the car at the school gate. Their majors were very different, and Qiao Jin still had to walk some distance. However, when she appeared together with Muzichu, they attracted the attention of many nearby students. In school, there were always some people who were influential. Clearly, Muzichu was such a person. They had inherited Mu Zhenming's superior appearance. They were tall and handsome. The Mu family was a rich family, and they were also very outstanding since elementary school. Naturally, they were people on the list of influential people in school. The people around them were at least in the same circle. Even if they weren't, someone would investigate. Not many people in school knew about the relationship between Qiao Jin and him. Chapter 56. Now that Qiao Jin and Muzichu suddenly appeared together, the students who saw them were naturally curious. Especially when Qiao Jin and Muzichu got off from the Mu family's car. Everyone looked at them curiously, and some even secretly took photos. It was obvious that soon, the photos of Qiao Jin and Muzichu together would appear on the school forum. Muzichu didn't care about the gazes of the people around him. Once he got off the car, he naturally separated from Qiao Jin. At this moment, someone called out to Muzichu. "Chi Chu." The voice was sweet and didn't sound coquettish. Turning around, it was a girl wearing a limited edition black knitted dress. Her long hair hung down to her waist like seaweed. It was obvious that her hair had been carefully cared for. It was black, soft, and beautiful. Coupled with her exquisite face, she was really a representative of a goddess. Muzichu also looked over. He and Qiao Jin were in 2 different directions. Logically speaking, this had nothing to do with Qiao Jin. However, when Qiao Jin saw this girl, she suddenly revealed an interesting smile and stopped on the spot to look at them. Muzichu was looking at this girl with his back facing Qiao Jin, so he didn't notice. When Muzichu saw her, his expression didn't change. He raised his eyes and said lazily, "What's the matter?" He couldn't ignore the daughter of the Mu family's business partner. However, he didn't particularly want to. Muzichu still knew etiquette. "Let's go together." The girl walked over with an exquisite high-end bag. She looked like a lady from a wealthy family and smiled sweetly. "Are you free this afternoon? We have a party." Before she could finish, Muzichu said lightly, "No, I have to go to the hospital to visit brother Yanqing in the afternoon." The smile on the girl's face faded. She knew about the Song Yanqing, but she wasn't qualified to visit Song Yanqing. Hearing this, she could only pretend to be surprised. "Brother Yanqing is sick. You can go and take a look then." But in reality, she had never met Song Yanqing. She had only heard of him a few times from her father. It was said that he was a sickly person. After she finished speaking, she stretched out her hand as if she wanted to hold on to Muzichu. "Let's go to class together." Muzichu turned around silently and avoided her contact, so she grabbed nothing. His smile froze for a moment. She had always been the goddess sought after by thousands of people in school. Who didn't worship her? If Muzichu didn't give her face, she wouldn't be able to say anything. After all, the other party was also known as the Ice Mountain Prince in school. She originally wanted to follow Muzichu, but who knew that a lazy voice suddenly called out from behind her, "Chi Chu." Her voice was clear and melodious, like the ringing of a bell, pleasing to the ear. Muzichu turned around and saw Qiao Jin still standing there. He frowned. "Why haven't you gone over yet?" Can't find your school building? That's not it. Qiao Jin was all smiles, looking like a carefree existence. Anyone who looked at her would feel a sense of joy. She suddenly pointed at the girl beside Musichu. Chi-Chu, study hard. Don't interact with her too much. It's not good for you. Her tone was a little serious, as if she was an elder who had high hopes. The girl's face immediately turned green. What did she mean by not interacting with her too much? It was not good for Musichu. Musichu was also a little surprised. His light brown eyes lit up. Don't talk nonsense. This is Uncle Feng's daughter, Feihe. Qiao Jin said, of course I know who she is. After saying this, she turned around and left. Chapter 57. Feng Fei he was annoyed. She stamped her feet and said angrily, Chi-Chu, what does she mean? Musichu looked at her and said casually, she just came out of the hospital. The doctor said that there was something wrong with her brain. Don't take it to heart. Feng Fei his face turned greener. It was hard for her to pursue the matter. After all, Musichu had made it so clear. However, it was obvious that she knew Qiao Jin. Musichu and Musilian had met Qiao Jin outside the school before. At that time, Feng Fei he was present and knew their relationship. But she was not familiar with Qiao Jin. She didn't even say a word. Today, Qiao Jin's words were indeed targeted. Musichu didn't quite understand. Of course, Qiao Jin knew the girl just now. She wondered why Tan Shuejia approached her because of Musichu and Musilian, but there was no such big karma between them. It turned out that she was waiting for her here. Qiao Jin actually didn't know Feng Fei he. But in her memory, this girl was the campus belle. Like Musichu and others, she was currently studying in the 3rd year. She was Qiao Jin's senior. The Feng family's status in the capital was comparable to that of the Song family. Although Feng Fei he was not valued by the Feng family, she was still a member of the Feng family and had a high status in the school. She also had a good relationship with Musichu and others. The first time Qiao Jin saw Feng Fei he, she saw the dead air on her. And the karma that made her feel familiar. Obviously, it was obvious who ordered Tan Shuejia to come here. If Feng Fei he had nothing to do with this matter, Qiao Jin would not see her own karma on her. However, Feng Fei he and Tan Shuejia shouldn't be in contact with each other. One was a girl who hung out in bars outside, and the other was a rich young lady who was the center of attention in school. It was really difficult to connect these two people. However, it was not difficult for Qiao Jin to find out what kind of relationship they had. She first went to her school building and found the sales assistant. She was a member of the Mu family. Because of this, the homeroom teacher couldn't say much. He just advised Qiao Jin earnestly, when you transferred here, I inquired about your grades in your original school. Your grades are obviously not bad. It's not difficult for you to study hard and prepare for the postgraduate entrance examination. You have to work hard. The homeroom teacher had good intentions. Seeing that she had taken more than 10 days of leave, he naturally couldn't help but say this. Of course, Qiao Fei couldn't use Qiao Jin's suicide as an excuse when he asked for leave. He used other excuses. Qiao Jin smiled faintly, thank you for your reminder, teacher. I will work hard in the future. Regardless of anything else, at least his attitude was good. The teacher sighed, nodded, and let Qiao Jin go. Qiao Jin downloaded her class schedule from the school's information network. Her class schedule was very full. She hadn't come to school for more than 10 days and had missed a lot of classes. Now she had to make up for them slowly. Qiao Jin didn't live on campus. She only needed to attend classes, so the school didn't care so much. She went to her class first. Because the courses were all electives, many students were not familiar with each other. Not many people paid special attention to her absence. However, she was at least a famous beautiful girl in linguistics, and there were many people chasing her. In addition, someone had just posted a photo of her and Musichu getting out of the car together on the school forum. As soon as she walked into the class, it caused a small sensation. When everyone saw Qiao Jin coming in, they all whispered. The most mentioned word was Musichu. Chapter 58. Many people thought that Qiao Jin was Muzichu's girlfriend. However, Muzichu had never had a girlfriend. On the other hand, Musilian was more of a playboy and had never stopped having girlfriends in school. The twins looked the same, but there was a big difference between them, so it was easier to recognize them. Qiao Jin casually found a seat near the back and sat down. She had good eyesight, so it didn't matter if she sat in the last row. The classroom was very big, so it wasn't full. Qiao Jin had just sat down when someone came over and sat beside her. It was an average-looking boy. He was dressed well, but he was a little short and wasn't much taller than Qiao Jin. He stared at Qiao Jin and even squeezed closer to Qiao Jin. Qiao Jin immediately blocked them with a book and said calmly, "What are you doing?" The seat was so big and empty, but he still wanted to squeeze closer to Qiao Jin. Qiao Jin. The boy gritted his teeth and looked a little embarrassed. "Why didn't you reply to my message? Didn't you agree to be my girlfriend? Why did you come with Muzichu this morning? You're a fickle woman." Qiao Jin. There were indeed many lunatics in the 21st century. She slowly remembered who this person was. About half a month ago, he had confessed to Qiao Jin in school. This person was very thick-skinned and pestered Qiao Jin. At that time, he even stopped Qiao Jin and refused to let her go. After she rejected him, he still didn't agree. Qiao Jin was a little scared at that time. There was a news story about a college student who was rejected and stabbed to death. Qiao Jin could only say, "Let me think about it. Let me think about it, okay?" Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that it was a tactful rejection, but he took it seriously. He added Qiao Jin's WeChat and said that he would wait for news. He even sent a video to Qiao Jin in the middle of the night. Qiao Jin, of course, refused. She was even afraid that she would be pestered again the next day when she came to school, but Tan Shuijia relieved her of her worries. Then there was the current Qiao Jin. This person did not get a response for a long time. Qiao Jin had not come to school for more than 10 days, so he could not do anything for the time being. Qiao Jin did not reply to his WeChat messages either. He minded his own business and sent Qiao Jin good morning and good night every day. If Qiao Jin did not come, perhaps he would have slowly given up on this idea, but now that Qiao Jin had appeared, his hope was reignited. Not refusing meant that he agreed. In his heart, this was the program. He thought that Qiao Jin was his girlfriend, but this morning on the forum, Muzichu and Qiao Jin came together, so he was angry. In addition, he and Qiao Jin happened to choose the same elective class, so he naturally came over. At this time, the surrounding people were watching. The teacher had not arrived yet, so the eyes of the college students were full of gossip. Qiao Jin looked at him slowly. "I just thought about it. My memory tells me that I did not agree to be your girlfriend. You don't have the right to ask who I come to school with, and I don't know you." The words were said slowly, but it was very clear. The surrounding people burst into laughter. They were not blind. With Qiao Jin's looks, how could this guy be compatible with Qiao Jin? Once she said it clearly, everyone understood what was going on. The guy heard the laughter around him and was obviously anxious. "You didn't reject me. Didn't you add me on WeChat?" Qiao Jin said slowly, "I was stopped by you at that time. I rejected you, but you still didn't leave. I was afraid, so I said I would think about it. You also forced me to add you on WeChat. I chose not to call the police and say that you harassed me. So, what else do you want to say?" Chapter 59. Liu Wenmeng's face turned green. He had his eyes on Qiao Jin for a reason. Firstly, Qiao Jin was indeed beautiful. Secondly, he had asked around and found out that Qiao Jin did not have any social background. She had a soft personality, but people who confessed to her in the past did not make things difficult for her. They were all university students, so they had a basic sense of propriety. Liu Wenmeng's family was average. Although he was a local, he was not very outstanding in school. He came from an ordinary family with no connections. Back then, he entered this school because of the preferential policies. Later, he felt the huge pressure from the school. His conditions were even more average. The girls in the school were fashionable, and their families were top-notch. No one liked him. In the same dormitory, there was a rich playboy who changed girlfriends frequently. All of them were beautiful. He was envious and jealous, but he did not have the conditions. He did not like girls from other places who were average. Qiao Jin's beauty was one of the reasons. In addition, he had seen some online tutorials on how to woo girls. He thought that he could deal with Qiao Jin, so he wanted to woo Qiao Jin. At that time, he stopped Qiao Jin to confess, but she rejected him, which made him a little angry. Qiao Jin was from other places. She did not have a local account or background. Her conditions were average. He had never seen her wear any branded clothes. It was good enough that he liked her. How good could he pick? So he was a little anxious at that time. Qiao Jin might have been afraid, so she changed her words and said that she would think about it. Later, she added him on WeChat. However, Qiao Jin did not reply to him. He thought that Qiao Jin did not reject him, so he told his roommates that his girlfriend was Qiao Jin. Now that Qiao Jin had come to school, his roommates had just sent a photo of Qiao Jin and Musichu in the group chat. They had even specifically at him to ask what was going on. He was angry at that time. He did not expect to be even more angry when he came over. Qiao Jin did not give him any face. The looks in the eyes of the people around them were very obvious. Some people even whispered, although there are rumors about Qiao Jin, it's not like a toad like him can eat it, right? She even came here with young Master Mu this morning. How could she take a fancy to him? Dream on. Why are pestering people so scary these days? But I heard that Qiao Jin isn't a good person either. Didn't the forum post that she appeared in a bar? All sorts of words, the quieter they were, the more piercing they sounded. Liu Wenmeng's face was ashen, and the hand holding the book was trembling. Blue veins popped out on the back of his hand as he looked at Qiao Jin with an even more unsightly expression. In an instant, he actually reached out to grab Qiao Jin. Come out. Let's talk this out. Just as his hand was about to touch Qiao Jin picked up the book and swung it at Liu Wenmeng. Pa. The book slapped his face, and it was exceptionally loud. It made Liu Wenmeng dizzy, and her body crashed into the wall behind her. Wow. Fuck. There was an uproar in the classroom. The teacher stepped in and did not notice the chaos in the back row. She said loudly, "Students, let's start the class." Qiao Jin retracted her hand, and her movements were elegant and slow. "Touch me again, and I'll chop off your claws." Her voice was actually quite soft, and it sounded a little gentle. However, no one felt that she was joking. There was even an inexplicable chill. The hearts of the people around them skipped a beat when they heard that. Qiao Jin usually did not take the initiative to attack people because of karma. However, once someone offended her, she would not suffer any backlash even if she took the other party's life. She did not like to lower herself to the level of such juniors, except for shameless people. Chapter 60. Liu Wenmeng was stunned. When he came to his senses, he looked at Qiao Jin. His eyes were red and he was especially angry as he let out a roar. Ah! It was very loud and alarmed everyone in the classroom. The teacher naturally heard it too. He looked at the back row and hurriedly said, "What are you doing? Class is about to start. Why are you still shouting? Hurry up and leave if you don't want to go to class." The teachers of key schools still had some prestige. Some teachers had more powerful backgrounds than the students, so they were naturally not afraid of offending the students. Unless it was some students that they could not afford to offend. Liu Wenmeng had lost all his face at this moment. In addition, class had already started, so he did not dare to say anything. He obediently returned to his seat. This time, he was very far away from Qiao Jin. Because if he did not attend class, his credits would be deducted. It could be seen how he bullied the weak and feared the strong. Seeing that there was nothing else, the teacher continued with the class. And Qiao Jin's sudden attack shocked everyone in the classroom. They looked at him in a different light. Some of them knew that she had always been a yes-man. Now that she hit Liu Wenmeng, TSK, looking at him now, half of his face was red. It was more than a sorry state. He was too ruthless. He did not show any mercy. Of course, if they were the ones being pestered by such a shameless person, they would probably be even more ruthless. Liu Wenmeng did not dare to tell the teacher that there were surveillance cameras in the classroom. He was the one who attacked first, so there was no way to reason with him. Qiao Jin sat in his seat and listened to the class attentively. There was no change in his expression. As a person from the old era, it was more difficult for her to learn such modern knowledge. However, with the original Qiao Jin's memories, it was fine. Moreover, it happened to be language. Language was the ability that they could master the fastest. It would not take long for her to understand it completely. As for basic mathematics and such, it would be a bit of a pain in the ass. After a period, she only understood half of it. She would go back and consolidate it. When the bell rang, Liu Wenmeng jumped out faster than anyone else. He had been humiliated by Qiao Jin just now. Now that everyone was looking at him with mocking eyes, Liu Wenmeng naturally could not stay any longer. However, it did not mean that he was willing to tolerate it. Just now, Qiao Jin took advantage of him not paying attention. When Qiao Jin was alone, she would be in trouble. She was a girl. Even if she had suffered a loss, she wouldn't dare to say it out loud, right? When Qiao Jin saw Liu Wenmeng quickly run out, a grey aura suddenly rose from her body. He couldn't help but slightly narrow his eyes. Then, the corners of his mouth rippled with a smile, and he lightly made a TSK sound. She liked to act recklessly like this. After this class, no one had time to gossip because they had to rush to the next class. If they wanted to gossip, they would only gossip on the school forum. Now that she and Musichu had appeared in school together, many people had probably seen it. Along the way to the next classroom, there were people staring at Qiao Jin. Qiao Jin was not a famous person. Not many people knew about her, but there were quite a number of people who knew about her. Because of this, along with the gossip about her and Tan Shuejiao, as well as the fact that Qiao Jin had indeed appeared in bars and other places, a malicious post about Qiao Jin soon appeared on the forum. Forgive me for being blunt. Isn't a certain famous person's taste too bad this time? Anonymous OP. This morning, there was a big sensation in school. The Ice Prince actually appeared in a car with a girl, which is rare. This is the first time other than Goddess Feng. At first, the OP thought that it was a family member, but after checking, TSK, I didn't expect it to be a girl with outstanding achievements. Chapter 61. This post did not have any substantial evidence. It was just a few people who heard that Qiao Jin was not a good person after bumping into her at the bar. Then, after the post started, there were endless replies. Anonymous. Yes, I bumped into her at the bar last time. She was very bold when she drank. Anonymous. Is she a good person who can enter such a place? Those who did not dare to mention her name also hid their names. This post was quickly covered with comments. Naturally, Qiao Jin didn't know about it. However, she had a feeling that the grey aura she saw on the campus had something to do with her. She couldn't keep it from her. This grey aura was very small. It was basically the same as losing a few yuan while walking, but that was also karma. Qiao Jin raised her eyebrows and did not ask too much. However, in the next class, some people kept looking at her on their phones. She roughly knew what was going on. She took out her phone and browsed the school forum. The topic of the post had already reached the news of Qiao Jin beating up a boy in the classroom. Anonymous. Don't. She just beat up a boy in the classroom. Just because she hooked up with young master this morning, she turned her back on her boyfriend. She still has the face to beat him up when he comes to find her. This was how gossip came to be. Without any substantial evidence, they started to make wild guesses. They were probably relying on their anonymity. Anonymous. There's a saying. It was that boy who shamelessly pestered Qiao Jin. No matter how much you hate her, you can't spread rumors. You're not the only one in the classroom. We heard the whole thing clearly, okay? Qiao Jin scrolled to the bottom of the post. She did not feel angry and even smiled. How interesting. Not long after, a surprising comment suddenly appeared downstairs. Musichu from the math department. Oh, she's not a good person at the bar. Then how did you see it? This post has violated the rules of the forum. Comments are banned. Qiao Jin raised her eyebrows. Musichu was speaking up for her. Oh, she did not dote on him for nothing. When Musichu came out, the post was banned from commenting. Everyone in the classroom put down their phones and looked at each other. As for Xiao Jin, he listened attentively and turned a deaf ear to the gazes around him. After class, the morning class was over. They ate lunch at school. The school cafeteria was not bad. There were many types of Western and Chinese food. The price was also affordable. Xiao Jin studied in a key university, and there was no lack of local rich people who relied on preferential policies to get in. Of course, most of them were the real deal, but there were also many who got in with high scores from other places. The more people there were, the more circles there would be. Basically, those who were good at studying and had the most powerful family background were at the top of the food chain. Of course, it was difficult for them to come into contact with each other in university. Basically, they were still busy with their studies. Many of the people here were able to help out in their family companies after graduation. Most of them would choose to further their studies abroad. There were many outstanding talents here. Therefore, most of the gossip on the forum revolved around the few famous people. Others could not be bothered to pay attention to others. Xiao Jin took her food and sat down at a long table that was temporarily empty. Not long after she sat down, she suddenly stood up and moved to the side as if she had eyes. A girl who was holding a tray behind her exclaimed and fell to her seat. The soup on the tray spilled all over the table and the floor. It was a mess. Chapter 62. If it weren't for the fact that Xiao Jin didn't get up just now, she would have been the one to suffer. However, the woman who fell in her seat also looked at Xiao Jin in shock. Did she have eyes? She stood up inexplicably. The commotion naturally attracted the attention of others. Xiao Jin looked at the unfamiliar girl, bent his waist slightly, and said with a smile, "Don't play such tricks in university. Be careful of retribution." The girl's face suddenly turned ugly. Obviously, she did it on purpose. Just as she was about to carry the tray, she accidentally bumped into Xiao Jin. In the end, Xiao Jin retreated as if she had eyes. She lost her balance and fell onto the table. The soup spilled all over the floor and splashed onto her. She had tried to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it. Xiao Jin's plate was destroyed, but she didn't care. She went to get a new plate and sat down at another seat. The girl left the cafeteria in a sorry state. When she came out, she had the urge to cry. She walked to the back of a teaching building and saw Feng Fei He and a few other girls standing together. These people were like the beautiful scenery in the school. Those who could stay by Feng Fei He's side were not ordinary people. All of them were dressed exquisitely and fashionably. The jewelry they wore was expensive. The smell of money was very strong. But when they were together, they were still not as stunning as the Phoenix consort. Seeing her come over, someone quickly asked, "How was it?" Feng Fei He saw that her clothes were in a mess. She choked. "You didn't fight with her, did you?" As soon as the girl came close, she smelled the bad smell of the school cafeteria. Feng Fei He frowned, covered her nose, and took 2 steps back in disgust. The girl was a little embarrassed. She could only take a few steps back and put on a long face. "No, I wanted to pretend that I accidentally spilled the food on her, but it was as if she had eyes." She suddenly stood up. "I lost my balance and the food fell on the table. I also fell on the table." Hearing her words, a beautiful girl next to Feng Fei He suddenly said, "I really saw a ghost." When Feng Fei He heard this, her eyes narrowed slightly. When she thought of what Xiao Jin had said in the morning, she got angry. The key point was that Musichu had deliberately kept a distance from her. She was so angry that she wanted to sue Xiao Jin. However, Musichu said that there was something wrong with Xiao Jin's brain. She asked around and found that it was true. If she complained to the Mu family, wouldn't she seem petty and unpresentable? She couldn't take it lying down and wanted to send one of her followers to teach her a lesson. She didn't expect that the first one would fail. Feng Fei He didn't think too much about it for the time being. She fanned her fingers in front of her nose. Forget it, forget it. There are plenty of ways. Go take a shower and change your clothes first." You're covered in the stench of the canteen. The girl's expression became even more awkward. Feng Fei, he was born into a noble family. She couldn't stand the lowly existence of the school cafeteria and despised everything around her. She had never come to places like the school cafeteria. Xiao Jin was eating in the school cafeteria. She didn't have any friends, so naturally, no one sat with her. While she was eating, she received a WeChat message. Because she only had Song Yanqing as a friend, she opened the message. Song Yanqing's message popped up on the screen of her phone. Song Yanqing, Miss Qiao, may I ask if you're the same age as me after the change of fate? Xiao Jin didn't ask this question at that time. Now that Song Yanqing asked, Xiao Jin raised her eyebrows. He thought of it pretty quickly. Xiao Jin replied, yes. Strictly speaking, it only needs to be the same age as you. The other party must be born in the same year as you. Chapter 63. When Song Yanqing saw Xiao Jin's reply, he felt more confident. When he saw that soft and cute profile picture, he found it hard to imagine that the girl was typing this sentence with a calm face on the other side of the phone. He suddenly found it funny. A simple thank you was too utilitarian. After all, Xiao Jin hadn't received any benefits from the Song family so far. It was considered a free help. He thought for a moment and typed again. His typing speed wasn't fast. Usually, work problems were notified over the phone. Even if the assistant was in charge of WeChat, it was Xiao Jin. He couldn't let the assistant talk to the other party. Song Yanqing, thank you for your information. Has Miss Qiao eaten? Xiao Jin paused. Song Yanqing was very polite, but the last sentence was strange. Xiao Jin sighed. He still had to deal with it. After all, it was a business deal. Jin Jinyo, yes. School cafeteria. Song Yanqing, oh? I thought you would choose to eat outside of school. Xiao Jin looked like an expert. Experts wouldn't eat in the cafeteria. Jin Jinyo, I don't have money. Xiao Jin didn't have much money on her. Xiao Fei was careless and thought that Xiao Jin should have money, so he didn't give her any pocket money. Besides, she ate at home. Xiao Jin earned all the death aura of others. She didn't have much money on her. Of course, she would choose the cafeteria. She couldn't be bothered to tell Xiao Fei that she didn't have money. She felt that it wasn't appropriate to ask Fei Fei for money. She couldn't bring herself to do it. Song Yanqing, this was the first time he was choked by someone. Xiao Jin was the daughter of the Mu family. Logically speaking, there was no problem with money. Mu Zhenming was so harsh on his adopted daughter. Song Yanqing thought for a moment and slowly tapped the screen again. Song Yanqing, Miss Qiao has helped me a lot. I don't think it's appropriate for me to not ask for a reward. Can you tell me your card number? It's Jin Jinyo, you've already paid. Don't give me any more money. It won't do me any good if you take more. It was Jin Jinyo, Mr. Song, I'm going to class now. Talk to you next time. The man with perfect eyebrows and skin was deep in thought at this time. His eyes looked back and forth at the content of the conversation on the phone several times, and the corner of his mouth suddenly overflowed with a slight smile. He had met many people who tried to curry favor with him, but this was the first time he had met someone who simply expressed that they didn't want to talk anymore. Of course, perhaps this was why Xiao Jin had such a mysterious ability. Although his father was still somewhat guarded against Xiao Jin because of some things he had seen, Song Yanqing felt that she was still trustworthy enough. In his other world, Xiao Jin was the only light. There was a reason for that. At the mention of money, Xiao Jin instantly remembered that he couldn't do anything without money. In this world, he still needed money to eat. She was too embarrassed to ask for Xiao Fei's money. She was already an adult and could earn money with her own ability. What was her ability? Oh, it seemed that he still had to walk the path of fortune-telling. After all, fortune-telling was the only way to make money quickly without any mistakes. However, there had to be a suitable place for fortune-telling. In Xiao Jin's memory, the word online shop appeared. In this day and age, even things that were labeled as feudal superstitions could survive. The internet was a big dye vat. There were countless online shops for horoscopes, fortune-telling, and tarot card divination. In Qiao Jin's previous memory, there was also a memory of being cheated by online tarot card divination. He spent 500 yuan and got a sentence, "You will be the woman of the king in the future." Haha. Chapter 64. Qiao Jin could come up with thousands of such swindler lines in an instant, and every line could be plausible enough to make people feel that it made sense. It was much more realistic than this kind of swindler shop. Of course, there were so many kinds of divination evaluations and fortune-telling. There might be someone who was really skilled in it, but it was very rare. For example, Qiao Jin was about to open an online shop. She did as she said. After eating, she sat down at a resting place and checked the process and capital of opening an online shop. The advantage of a regular website was that it allowed such shops to open, but the disadvantage was that such shops could be reported at any time. However, Qiao Jin regained her confidence after seeing that there were a few swindler shops of a decent scale that were still alive. The biggest advantage was that she didn't have to expose her real identity. Registering an online shop was undoubtedly a torturous process for a lazy newbie like her. After scratching her head and scratching her face, she finally registered as a fortune-telling shop on the country's largest online shop platform, Marobao. The name of the shop was. These days, there were even shops that sold farts. What was a fortune-telling shop? The backstage approval was very straightforward. The small shop was empty. It had just been registered, so there was no popularity or reputation. The most important thing was that the registered shop was 50,000 yuan lower than Qiao Jin's. That was a sum of pocket money that Qiao Jin had saved from living frugally since she was young. Qiao Fei's life with her was not easy. To be able to save 50,000 yuan for Qiao Jin, her self-discipline was quite amazing. This 50,000 yuan was now Qiao Jin's final mortgage capital. The small shop had just opened, so there was no popularity. The price could not be set too high. Qiao Jin thought about it and decided to give it a discount. Thus, she set the price, 99 yuan for a single marriage, 99 yuan for a single luck, 299 yuan for a single fortune, 599 yuan for a life, 999 yuan for a simplified full package, and 9,999 yuan for a detailed full package. Moreover, the other families were more messy and didn't have such a detailed division. The other set meals were much more expensive than the other stores. If she restored the original price, her set would be the highest on the internet. However, how many people who could open an online store had the ability to do what she did? She didn't think that Qiao Jin was being modest. The storefront had already been opened, but it needed to be advertised. She only had a WeChat account now. She only had Song Yanqing as her WeChat friend. Sending it was equivalent to not sending it. Qiao Jin temporarily stopped the idea of advertising on WeChat. Anyway, the storefront was already set up. The first customer would arrive in about a week's time. There was no hurry. After all, people would hesitate, let alone an online fortune-telling shop. After busying herself for a while, class was about to start again. She had just taken a step when she clicked her tongue again. There was no class in the afternoon. Sure enough, after waiting quietly for a minute, she received a call from the homeroom teacher. The other party's voice was obviously a little surprised. "Qiao Jin, come to my office now. The police are looking for you." Chapter 65. Talking about Xuejia was not over yet. In fact, it was just the beginning. When they arrived at the homeroom teacher's office, there were a few policemen standing inside. One of them was the policewoman who had interrogated Qiao Jin last time. But there was also a woman with a high ponytail and glasses who looked valiant. She was wearing civilian clothes, so it was uncertain if she was a member of the police. When Qiao Jin saw her, he pursed his lips slightly and revealed a faint smile. When the homeroom teacher saw Qiao Jin, he looked at him with some surprise. "Qiao Jin, these policemen are looking for you." The policewoman came forward and looked at Qiao Jin. She was very gentle. "We meet again, Miss Qiao." Qiao Jin raised his eyebrows. "I thought that after the interrogation last time, I should have been cleared of suspicion. The policewoman said, "It's just routine. We still need to bring Miss Chow back for investigation. We are following the rules. I hope that Miss Chow will forgive us." Of course, they were following the rules. Talking about Shueijia was not over yet, and another person had died. It was also a bar girl. It was fine if they were not related, but it was the same $52. Most importantly, this bar girl was with Tan Shueijia, and she had also come into contact with Qiao Jin. It was no wonder that they continued to target Qiao Jin. Yarrow looked at Qiao Jin with interest. On the surface, she looked like a normal girl in her 20s. She was wearing a pure white shirt and denim pants. She had a good figure and looked pure and lively. Her appearance was exquisite, and she even looked like a flower in a greenhouse that had been watered. But that was in the past. Now, although Qiao Jin was smiling, his eyes were very calm. At a closer look, one could see that he was very different from before. There was even a hint of pity for all living beings. Yes, it was very uncomfortable. It made people feel that they would be inexplicably shorter in front of her. There was indeed a huge change. For the time being, Yarrow didn't know when this change started. This time, the police had investigated her. They had also cooperated with the official organization. They had used an identity to look for Qiao Jin together. She wanted to take the opportunity to get close to Qiao Jin and see through her disguise. Qiao Jin was taken away from school, and it was posted on the school forum. After all, there were quite a few posts about her today. Those who didn't know Qiao Jin before now knew her. Everyone was curious as to why she was taken away. It was another familiar process, but this time, other than the policewoman, Yarrow, who was sitting next to her, was also being interrogated. Yarrow wasn't wearing a uniform, but she gave off a lot of pressure just by sitting there. However, this pressure did not affect Qiao Jin. Qiao Jin sat there and heard the policewoman ask, "You know Ji Jiazhen, right? When was the last time you met?" Ji Jiazhen was the latest victim. She also died outside, but the difference was that she was found by some passers-by not long after her death. She died in the early hours of the morning. It was the same 52 slashes. There were no surveillance cameras nearby, and the few houses that did have any abnormalities. The murderer had perfectly controlled the blind spots. It was someone who was very familiar with the surrounding terrain. It was reasonable to say that they couldn't find Qiao Jin, but Qiao Jin was involved. Ji Jiazhen and Qiao Jin were also very close. Ji Jiazhen was also present when Qiao Jin took drugs that night. She was with several other men at that time. Coincidentally, the victims were all women, but the men that night were not. The police had reason to suspect that it was because women were easier to deal with. Chapter 66. About half a month ago, Wang Yao replied. Qiao Jin looked confused. "I don't remember clearly. I'm not close to Ji Jiazhen. Ji Jiazhen was with Tan Shueijia, so he wasn't close." The policewoman was still smiling. "Don't be nervous. We're just asking a routine question. Then do you know if there's anyone who has a grudge with them? Isn't it normal to have grudges?" "But how would I know?" Qiao Jin said slowly. "I definitely have an alibi when she died because I was at home. If you really don't have any clues, why don't you let me read your fortune? I might be able to give you some clues." The policewoman was stunned. Yarrow raised her eyebrows and spoke for the first time. "Are you a fortune teller?" She had been sitting on the side like an outsider, but now she finally spoke. Her voice was cold. Qiao Jin nodded. "Sort of. I've been planning to do this business recently." The policewoman's expression turned serious. "Miss Chow, this is a matter of life and death. You can't joke about it." "I'm not joking. It's as if you brought me here because of this woman's request." Qiao Jin pointed at Yarrow. "Miss He, you have to pay a price for what you want to know." "Oh." Yarrow put her hand on the table and looked at Qiao Jin coldly. "What price do I have to pay?" Qiao Jin also smiled and leaned closer to her. "Don't use your ability on me. You're not good enough. Be careful not to ask for trouble." As soon as she finished speaking, Yarrow's body slammed backward into the back of the chair. The sound of her body hitting the chair was so hard that one could feel the pain in her bones. The policewoman was shocked. "Miss He." Yarrow's face tightened. This was a very difficult opponent, and she was arrogant. Her ability was very strange. Yarrow couldn't tell that it was her spiritual thought ability at first. If it was a prediction ability, she shouldn't have been able to attack, but now, her back hit the hard chair in the interrogation room. The pain went deep into her bones, but Yarrow's expression didn't change at all. Qiao Jin was impressed by his endurance. After a long while, Yarrow finally spoke again. "Isn't Miss Qiao a fortune teller? Can you read my fortune for me?" Qiao Jin said, "I don't have to do it for you. Why don't I do it for this big sister?" Qiao Jin smiled, showing the innocence of a 20-year-old. She looked at the policewoman. "Miss, do you want to read my fortune? It might be helpful to your case." How could the policewoman believe this? They didn't even know who Yarrow was. However, Qiao Jin was indeed difficult to deal with. The policewoman wanted to see what tricks she could play, so she nodded. "Okay." There were other people watching from outside the interrogation room. When they saw this scene, they were all somewhat baffled. How could a suspect in an interrogation be divined? Wasn't this a joke? Yarrow, however, stared closely at Qiao Jin's movements. Qiao Jin held the policewoman's hand and drew a few lines on her hand. She didn't even do anything extra. She withdrew her hand and placed it on the table. Her eyes were calm. "The next victim will be in 3 days. If you want to solve this case, you'll need at least a month." Yarrow's pupils constricted. She didn't feel that Qiao Jin had used her spiritual thought power at all. The policewoman was even more incredulous. "You're saying that the next victim will appear in 3 days? Are you kidding me?" Could it be that she had planned this all along and was now saying it out loud? Chapter 67. Qiao Jin smiled. "So, this is the result of my divination for you, not for me." The policewoman was speechless. Indeed, if Qiao Jin was the murderer, she wouldn't have said it now. She only said that the next victim would be in 3 days. She didn't say anything about the time, place, or person. The policewoman didn't believe it, but she still asked, "You said that the next victim will be in 3 days. Where is the location? Why do we need a month to solve this case?" This was already a serial murder case, and the higher-ups were pressuring them. If it took another month, they would probably be scolded badly. Who knew if there would be more victims in a month and cause more panic? No. Qiao Jin said that it would be in a month. Was it really a month? She was just spouting nonsense. Qiao Jin glanced at the policewoman. "You can't say it. You can't afford the information." If she could casually say these things, she would have been omniscient and omnipotent long ago. Even if she wanted to know some things, she had to think about whether the price was enough. She could easily see through other people's matters, but she couldn't say it. It wasn't without reason that heaven's secrets couldn't be revealed. The policewoman smiled. "You said that you would read my fortune, but you didn't even tell me anything. You call this fortune-telling?" Qiao Jin was very calm. "I've already told you that it'll be in 3 days. Also, this isn't fortune-telling. I'm just telling you what you want to know the most. This is already very important. What would it be in 3 days? Would it be a new victim or would the murderer be exposed?" She didn't say clearly. What was this? The team leader's voice came through the earpiece. "Forget it. She's just talking nonsense. The hospital said that she suffered a major shock. Don't interrogate her. There's no substantial evidence. Let her go for now." The policewoman was about to speak when Yarrow suddenly looked at Qiao Jin and said, "Do you know that if what you said becomes true, it will bring you even more trouble?" They knew that Qiao Jin might have the ability to see the future. If she said something, it might be true. If it really happened, Qiao Jin would be the biggest suspect. How did she know when a murder would happen? Qiao Jin smiled and said, "You can take it that I'm talking nonsense. In any case, that's what I think." The policewoman was speechless. Without any evidence, they could only release Qiao Jin for the time being. In fact, they knew that Qiao Jin did not have many suspicious points. Xiao Jin was the only one who seemed to have a direct connection with the two victims. She had been forced to take drugs, and Tan Xuejia and Ji Jiazhen had helped her. There was indeed a reason for revenge. However, now that Xiao Jin had almost recovered, even if she wanted to take revenge, it was not impossible for her to rely on the Mu family's power. It did not seem worthwhile to take his life. Everyone did things according to the rules, so there was nothing much to say. When Xiao Jin came out, He Yaro also came out. She looked at the girl in front of her and said, "Xiao Jin, there are many things in this world that are not what you think. You may be temporarily blinded, but you can't be blind." She was reminding Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin turned around and tilted her head to look at her. Oh! Was she reminding Xiao Jin that there were many other spiritual readers to not be blindly arrogant? She had never been blindly arrogant, but to find someone stronger than her? Sorry, no. Chapter 68. If it weren't for the fact that her old rival was shameless, he wouldn't have been able to trick her. It was precisely because he could only trick her that he couldn't beat Xiao Jin in a head-on confrontation. She hadn't been on guard back then, but now that she was, she had come to a whole new world. Xiao Jin nodded. "Thank you for the reminder. I'll keep it in mind." Xiao Jin took the car back home. There was no need for him to go to class in the afternoon. He Yarrow heaved a sigh of relief and called someone. Yes, it's a common problem for newbies. They're easily arrogant when they just awaken their power. I haven't found any signs of demonization yet. We can keep an eye on them. When Xiao Jin was about to get home, he received a call from Xiao Fei. The woman was crying on the other side. "Xiao Jin, why did you delete Mommy from WeChat?" If she hadn't sent Xiao Jin a message and received a "you're not friends with him yet" notification, she wouldn't have known about it. Her daughter was too rebellious. She didn't even acknowledge her mother and deleted her on WeChat. Xiao Fei felt that the sky was falling. Xiao Jin was silent for a moment. "No, there were too many people at the time. I accidentally deleted you when I deleted you. You can call me if you need anything. It's not like you need WeChat all the time. But Mom needs to transfer money to you. Of course it's more convenient to use WeChat. How can you delete Mom? You don't care about Mom and make Mom sad. Xiao Jin, Fei, tell me your WeChat ID again. I'll add you back." What a headache. When she added Xiao Fei again, she received a message from Song Yanqing. "Song Yanqing, 1x times x times x, my number. Call me if you need anything. Song Yanqing, I heard that you might be in some trouble. Do you need help?" Song Yanqing's news was quite fast. He was probably referring to Luke's arrest at the police station. But Xiao Jin didn't think much of such a small matter. He replied directly. "It's Jin Jinyo, it's not a big deal, there's no need." It was Jin Jinyo, "You don't have to think about compensating me. You really don't owe me anything. Take good care of your body and find the person who swapped your fate." Of course, it was too difficult for them to catch this person on their own. Unless Song Shiyin found someone special to help her. Song Yanqing, yeah. Xiao Jin didn't reply. He entered Xiao Fei's number and saw that her WeChat profile picture was that of a mature anime lady. Her username was Xin Fei. She could not imagine what Xiao Fei looked like at all. Xiao Jin, how could he blame her for accidentally deleting it? After adding her, Xiao Jin's remark was, Fei. Xiao Fei also pushed Mu Junming's WeChat over. "Jin, add your Uncle Mu's WeChat too. We can chat more in the future. After all, he's your father." "Xiao Jin," she then added Mu Junming. Of course, Mu Junming's WeChat account was not one that anyone could casually add. Song Yanqing saw that there was no reply and smiled slowly. He put his phone next to the bed and put his laptop in front of him. Even if he was sick, he still needed to work. Song Shiyin wanted him to rest, but he felt that he was fine now. He still had to work. Soon after, R also informed him that the Mu family's twins had come to visit him. Song Yanqing remembered that Xiao Jin was now living with the Mu family. If he wanted to get more information about Xiao Jin, he could start from the two brothers. He was too curious about Xiao Jin now. Chapter 69. Not long after Qiao Jin returned home, Qiao Fei complained to Qiao Jin. "Why did you delete Mom?" Qiao Jin sighed. "Didn't I say that I deleted the wrong person when I deleted her? Anyway, I added her back." Qiao Fei was still a little sad. "It's because I'm not important enough in your heart." Qiao Jin, however, she didn't dwell on this matter for long, because she was about to go to Sakura Island with Mu Junming for a week. After the two of them got together, they rarely had such an opportunity, mainly because Mu Junming was really too busy. Now that they finally had time to go for a week, there was no reason not to go. She was packing up now, and she asked Qiao Jin, "Jin, Mom has a lot of things to buy there. Is there anything you need? Mom will bring them back for you. There's a lot of delicious food in Sakura Island." Qiao Jin waved her hand. "I'm fine with anything." "Wait," as she spoke, she stretched out her finger and tapped Qiao Fei's forehead. After not sensing any bad omens, she nodded. "Go. Have fun. I'll be home." Qiao Fei, she didn't know, and she didn't dare to ask what she meant. Qiao Jin returned to her room. She counted on her fingers and found that the collection of death aura was still average. However, it was enough for now. She still wanted to know where her sworn enemy was at the moment. Whether she was dead or not, there had to be a sign. She stood where she was and set up an array with her blood as the array point. The lights in the room suddenly dimmed, and the pattern on the ground emitted a faint red light. However, it was only a momentary change. Soon, everything returned to normal. Her array didn't react at all. Qiao Jin clicked her tongue and erased the array. Her nemesis had probably guessed that she was not completely dead. Even if she was still alive, it was impossible for her not to hide herself and not let Qiao Jin find her. Qiao Jin had used a method that defied the heavens and changed his fate to survive. If he was still alive, he would have to pay an even greater price. Now, he would definitely be in a state that was neither human nor ghost. He would definitely not appear in front of others. It would be difficult for Qiao Jin to find him. Of course, the best explanation was that he was already dead. However, judging from the reaction of the array formation, it was most likely still struggling at death's door. Qiao Jin was not in a hurry. At this moment, the doorbell rang. Qiao Jin could sense that Qiao Fei was ringing the doorbell. She opened the door and saw Qiao Fei standing outside. He was rubbing his palms and looked a little uneasy. She didn't expect Qiao Jin to open the door so quickly. Qiao Fei was surprised and said, "Jin, can Mom go in? I want to talk to you about something." Qiao Jin nodded. After entering Qiao Jin's bedroom, Qiao Fei glanced around. The layout of the bedroom was no different from the first day Qiao Jin came here. She didn't seem to have changed anything. If Qiao Jin didn't really live here, it would be difficult to tell that Qiao Jin had lived here before. Was Qiao Jin still resisting this family? For some reason, Qiao Fei felt a little sad. She thought of what she wanted to say when she came here. After sitting down, she couldn't help but feel sad. She stammered, "Jin. Mom came here to apologize for what happened in the past 6 months. Mom let you down." Qiao Jin, she didn't think it was a big deal. Even if this didn't happen, she would still wake up. The time was coming. It was destined that she would live in this era. Chapter 70. Therefore, she said lightly, "I didn't take it to heart. It's not a big deal. Fei Fei, you don't have to think too much. But I know what kind of hard life you've been through. It's my fault for neglecting you." She had also consulted a psychiatrist about this issue recently. The psychiatrist told her that Qiao Jin had been like a flower in a greenhouse under her care for the past 20 years. He didn't know anything. Half a year ago, he was likely to have suffered a blow because of this incident. That was why he was led astray. At that time, she was busy communicating with her sons. In addition, she had some matters to deal with in the Mu family. It was inevitable that she neglected Qiao Jin. Qiao Fei wasn't a perfect woman. She just thought that they were all her own flesh and blood. She couldn't ignore the 3 sons in the Mu family. After all, Qiao Jin had been raised by her for 20 years. It wasn't that she didn't want him. She still gave him pocket money and took care of him. It was just that, she didn't know how it became like this. Although Qiao Jin was back now, what happened in between wasn't good. Qiao Fei also knew that she took drugs. She just didn't dare to mention it. She didn't dare to ask how she got addicted to drugs. She was afraid that she would mention Qiao Jin's sad story. When she knew that Qiao Jin committed suicide, she realized how big her negligence was as a mother. Seeing that Qiao Fei's eyes were red again, Qiao Jin immediately said, "I don't think it's a big problem." "Qiao Fei," Qiao Jin said, "it's good now. Don't worry. I'm almost recovered. I'll go to school. You can go to Sakura Island with Zhenming. I'll wait for you at home. You don't have to worry about it." Qiao Jin said earnestly, like an elder who had seen through life, "Fei Fei, I'm already 20 years old." When she said this, Qiao Fei thought that she was 100 years old for a moment. "At the age of 20, I know everything. I should understand you. After all, you have 3 biological sons. Don't worry. I really don't have any thoughts in my heart now. I treat all of you, including Zhenming, as a family." Qiao Fei, she wiped her tears and said, "I'm here to have a heart-to-heart talk with you. I think I'm a failure." "No, you're very successful." Qiao Jin praised sincerely, "Not every woman can raise a child to the age of 20. Qiao Fei had been taking care of Qiao Jin alone for the past 20 years. Even if their days weren't very good, at least they didn't have to worry about basic necessities. As a woman, she did not take any wrong paths and relied on her own efforts to raise a child. She was already very noble. Qiao Fei was comforted and felt relieved. "Jin, you have been obedient since you were a child. Mom is very pleased." She touched Qiao Jin's face lovingly. "Don't worry. No matter what you become, you will always be my favorite daughter. Even if there's something wrong with your brain, I'll take you to the best doctor in the world. I will definitely cure you." Qiao Jin, "All right, Fei Fei. You and Zhenming can go on a trip without worry. Don't worry about the family." Qiao Fei nodded. When she left, she was still a little worried. "Jin, don't hold back anything. When your uncle Zhenming and I leave, if your 2 brothers do something overboard, you must tell us." The 2 children didn't like Qiao Jin very much. Qiao Fei was a little afraid that they would bully Qiao Jin. "Qiao Jin, they won't. They are all good people." Chapter 71. Musilian and Musichu didn't know that Qiao Jin had labeled them as good people. Qiao Fei, on the other hand, was relieved. She was gratified that the relationship between her son and his sister was still good. "Look," his sister said that they were good people. After talking with Qiao Jin, Qiao Fei prepared to go to Sakura Island. They set off early in the morning and informed Qiao Jin before leaving. However, Qiao Fei was not a completely careless mother. In the morning, Qiao Jin saw Qiao Fei transfer 100,000 yuan to her. She fell into a long silence. To be honest, she couldn't bring herself to ask Qiao Fei for money. Even if this body was Qiao Fei's daughter, she still felt strange. She didn't need money now. She could save the money and return it to Qiao Fei when the time came. Besides, the fortune-telling shop could also make money. Of course, after Qiao Fei and Musilian left, when Qiao Jin woke up to go to school, Musilian, the Chinibya, saw her and threatened her fiercely. "Now we are in charge of this family. Our house has a curfew. You have to be home before 8 o'clock in the evening. Otherwise, you can forget about coming back." Qiao Jin, needless to say, Musichu basically danced until the wee hours of the morning every day. How could he tell her that the Musilian family had a curfew? She laughed to show her respect for Musilian. Musilian was angered by her mocking laughter. "What do you mean? Are you doubting my words?" "Qiao Jin, before Fei Fei left, she wanted us to get along well. She said that if you treat me badly, I should tell them." Musilian's face was wooden. "Are you threatening me? I asked you to come home early with good intentions. You actually think that I treat you badly? Which decent girl would still be outside at 8 o'clock at night?" Musichu walked over and glanced at Musilian. A decent boy wouldn't be dancing in a bar at 2 in the morning. Musilian. "I'm not serious." Qiao Jin. "Haha. Musilian, fuck. After Qiao Jin left, Musilian looked at Musichu and said unhappily, "Brother, why are you speaking up for her? We are now establishing our authority as her brothers. Look at her. She calls her parents by their names at home. Does she even respect us?" Musichu snorted. "But didn't you say that you wouldn't acknowledge her as your sister?" Musilian. His expression stiffened for a moment, and then he said sorrowfully, "Can you blame us? Mom and Dad have been brought back. I can only accept reality. Just you wait. When Dad is old and Big Brother is in charge of the family, we will chase her out." Musichu walked out with him. After a few seconds of silence, he said, "Have you found the group of people who tricked her into taking drugs?" Musilian's face turned serious. "They found them. Those bastards bribed the manager to cover up the video. My brother just found out, but he had a strange expression. There were 2 women in the video, but they are now dead." Slashed 52 times, Musichu's expression changed. "They are both dead." Musilian nodded. "This matter is a little strange. The police are still investigating. They suspect that it is a serial murder case. It is just that the deaths are too coincidental. Qiao Jin was called to the police station for an investigation, but she is not a suspect and has sufficient alibi." Chapter 72. Musichu pursed his thin lips and said, "Let's not talk about this for now. Let's focus on those people." Musilian said, "I know." Although he said that, when they really arrived at the Musichu's house, Qiao Jin suffered such a big loss that he almost wanted to commit suicide. But Musichu and Musilian didn't just sit back and watch. Qiao Jin hadn't left home yet. Because of the array she had set up in the house, all information about her would be automatically transmitted to her ears. She heard the conversation between Musichu and Musilian. After a while, she sighed and said, "Alas, it's so melodramatic." When there was no karma that day, she knew that Musilian and Musichu had no connection. The karma was caused by Fengfei He. Now it was obvious that Fengfei He was behind it. Qiao Jin hadn't found out what the relationship between this woman and Tan Xuejia was. Fengfei He had done a lot of evil things. The interesting thing was that her destiny was actually quite strong. Qiao Jin couldn't see it at a glance, which could only prove one thing. Either this woman's destiny was very strong, or she had a big backer behind her. Her backer was enough to protect Fengfei He from Qiao Jin's karma for the time being. It was a fact that she had harmed Qiao Jin. Sooner or later, something would happen. When the time came, there would probably be a good show to watch. It was another day of ordinary classes. With the memory of the past, the pressure of the classes was not great for her. In addition, Qiao Jin was now smart and had a wide range of 6 senses. She could learn everything very quickly. Even if she fell behind for more than 10 days, she could understand it as soon as she listened to the class. Besides, language was really not that stressful. She went to the library and picked a few books about the origin of the language she had learned. Combined with the teaching materials, she almost mastered the language. As long as there was actual information, she only needed to memorize and a little flexibility. It was so easy to learn. Modern knowledge such as mathematics was the real problem. Since he had already learned it, he had to learn it. A day passed, and she left school after school in the afternoon as usual. The Mu family arranged for a chauffeur to pick her up. When she walked out of the school gate, she felt a sinister gaze staring at her. She turned her head slightly, and Liu Wenming's panicked figure flashed past her eyes. Her lips curled up slightly. A piece of trash still refuses to give up on his evil intentions. He really needs to be taught a lesson. At the same time, some people in the school also realized that they had been unlucky for the past 2 days. Among them, the most were the people who posted Qiao Jin's post that day. She was a girl who had a crush on Musichu, Yu Saik. This was very normal. Many people in the school had a crush on Musichu. Who wouldn't like an influential figure? That day, when she saw Qiao Jin and Musichu getting out of the same car, she was really confused. She just happened to hear about Qiao Jin's matter. She felt that how could a girl from such a small place be worthy of Musichu? Without much investigation, she directly posted a post on the internet. When she saw so many people denouncing Xiao Jin with her, she felt happy. She didn't expect Musichu to stand up for Xiao Jin. Later, the post was banned from replying. She was afraid that Musichu would investigate her, so she was so scared that she deleted the post. Then, she started to have bad luck. First, she lost money. When she was walking, she accidentally stepped on a broken brick and was splashed with cement. It was dirty and smelly. At that time, she was so angry that she went back to the dormitory to change her clothes and take a shower. This was just a small problem. Ordinary people would be able to get over it in a flash. However, when she was taking a shower, her foot slipped and she fractured it. Chapter 73. She entered the infirmary. Injuries were a small matter, and it wouldn't affect her classes. But when she was surfing the internet on her phone, she accidentally received a text message. Her hand slipped and she was unlucky enough to encounter a virus. Someone had stolen more than 100,000 yuan from her bank account. There were many rich people who could study in this school, and Yu Saik was one of them. Her family gave her a lot of pocket money, which was why someone had stolen more than 100,000 yuan in one go. But this was her living expenses for a few months. With her roommate accompanying her, she went to call the police. When she came back, she touched her pocket. "Where's my phone?" Yu Saik broke down immediately. She collapsed in the dormitory, almost crying from anger. Losing her phone wasn't a big deal. She could buy a new one to make up for it. The key was that Yu Saik had encountered several unlucky incidents in a row. Now that she had even lost her phone, she broke down instantly. Her roommate who accompanied her to call the police felt her eyelids twitch. They searched for her phone together and confirmed that it was missing. When she called back, her phone was turned off and she knew what had happened. "Aren't you too unlucky?" Her roommate couldn't help it. "Why are you so unlucky these 2 days? Lost money, fractured bones, stolen credit cards, and now lost her phone. Basically, all the unlucky things in the year came together, right? Some people might not even be so unlucky in a year." Yu Saik was exhausted by these small matters. She broke down and said, "I don't know what happened either." Of course, they couldn't find the reason. But when they were students, they liked to post things on their WeChat moments or Weibo. Many students in the school posted that they had been very unlucky these few days. They were unlucky for no reason. The more serious ones were minor fractures. Things like losing money or mobile phones were not a big deal. Yu Saik was considered to have suffered the greatest loss. At this moment, a roommate came back and heard that they had lost money. She asked them how they were doing. When Yu Saik said that, her roommate fell into deep thought. "It's quite strange. In the past 2 days, you're already the 10th person I've heard of who lost their phones. More importantly, you have a fracture. A few students have had fractures in the past 2 days too." They all posted on their WeChat moments to complain. Yu Saik felt a chill run down her spine when she said that. Her roommate beside her was also shocked. "Is our school cursed?" But in the end, it was too bizarre. Everyone was just a little surprised and didn't take it to heart. The backlash effect was still ongoing. Many people had gotten into trouble in the past 2 days, but it wasn't anything serious. The loss of some property was enough to offset the punishment for spouting nonsense in the thread. Karma was also divided into primary, secondary, and severity. However, there was a fundamental difference between pure malice and just joining in on the fun. Many of them were also involved in the thread, but nothing happened. Those who had gotten into trouble had more or less spread news about Xiao Jin in the past. Now, they had just received their karma. Xiao Jin didn't care about these things. He went to class as usual for the next 2 days. However, this kind of abnormal large-scale incident would be noticed by the school. They also reminded the students to take care of their belongings and pay attention to their personal safety. Most importantly, the accidents were all accidents. Who would have thought of this? But He Yao's team had their eyes on this matter. They were investigating Xiao Jin. This small matter in the school wasn't what they cared about. When Hua Yangming browsed the school forum, he found that many students were complaining. He was interested and checked the history of the posts. These people had all replied to the rumor posts about Xiao Jin. Chapter 74. Hua Yangming had discovered something. He realized something terrifying and quickly informed He Yarou and the others. Other than Yi Shuadai, who had to go to class, everyone else was called over by Hua Yangming. This is a very strange point. I found that in the past 2 days, there have been many incidents in their school. There are many people who have broken bones or accidentally bruises. There are also dozens of people who have lost money, phones, and other belongings. This can't be a crime committed by someone. I think they all said that they lost their belongings by accident when they went out to play. Hua Yangming sorted out a document. He didn't show it to Cao Yikai and He Yarou first. Instead, he said, "Do you think this is normal or abnormal? That depends on your analysis. It can be normal or abnormal." He Yarou pushed up her glasses. In a short period of time, many people in a certain area have lost their belongings or had accidents. Since you said so, it proves that it's not a coincidence. Cao Yikai nodded. Hua Yangming handed the document to He Yarou. "I found it, but I don't have any evidence. I eliminated a small number of people who were involved in accidents. I checked the rest. These students all replied to the post about Xiao Jin on their school forum, and they were all malicious." When He Yarou heard that it was about Xiao Jin, she immediately flipped through the document. Cao Yikai also checked it. After reading it, Cao Yikai frowned. "This isn't right." He Yarou nodded. "This is definitely not right. These people replied to the malicious comments about Xiao Jin, but the post was deleted. Although it was anonymous, it's obvious that they were retaliated against to a certain extent." Cao Yikai looked at He Yarou with a grave expression. "This isn't right, right? 2 days ago, we guessed that Xiao Jin had a precognitive ability. Even if she knew that these people were hostile to her and wanted to take revenge, how could she control it so precisely and so minuscule? Yes, minuscule. This kind of revenge, if it was done by someone more ruthless, wouldn't just be a loss of property." Hua Yangming continued, "Among them, the one called Yu Saik was the one who posted the post. She suffered the most damage, with a broken bone and a loss of more than 100,000 yuan. I've checked, and the loss was caused by normal accidents. It's worlds apart from Xiao Jin. It can only be attributed to Xiao Jin's ability and curse." Curse? Cao Yikai's lips twitched before he shook his head. His expression was unusually solemn. "We can't be sure if Xiao Jin is a prophet or not. Now, he has another curse ability. That's impossible. A spiritual reader only has one ability." They had met so many spiritual readers, including themselves, but each of them only had one ability. The key point was that Xiao Jin really did have these 2 abilities, and they were both extremely rare. This was especially true for the ability to foresee the future, which was rather terrifying. If the other teams found out about this, Xiao Jin would definitely be arrested. The big clans behind the other groups were searching for these talents. If they couldn't be used, then there were quite a few of these matters. He Yarou fell silent for a moment before replying, "It's just a guess. We can't jump to conclusions without evidence." However, they all knew that now that the statistics were out, there was a layer of doubt in their hearts. This matter had been planted in their hearts. He Yarou's interest in Xiao Jin was growing. She didn't seem to be a demonized spiritual reader, so what was she? Chapter 75. 3 days later, another incident happened in the Nanping District Police Station that was enough to make the police lose their hair. The first 2 victims weren't finished yet, and a new victim appeared in the wee hours of the morning. The same 52 slashes, the same woman. The difference was that she didn't die near the Nanping sub-district, but in another district. The police officers knew each other's investigation information, so they combined the cases. They formed a special investigation team. To be honest, the capital had been peaceful for a long time, and such a brutal murder hadn't happened in a long time. This was clearly a serial murder. Someone posted this on the internet, and with the development of the internet, this murder case caused panic and even became a trending topic on Weibo. The case hadn't been solved yet, and the Nanping Subdistrict Police Station was under a lot of pressure. They could only suppress the trending topic to avoid causing more panic. On the other hand, they increased their efforts and organized more manpower, hoping to solve the case as soon as possible. The murderer was cunning and familiar with the roads. The surveillance in the nearby areas wasn't strict, and there were some problems. Also, it was very likely that one of the victims didn't die in the first place. To move the body, it had to be over a large area, and the target was obvious. How did the murderer do it? Someone remembered that Xiao Jin said 3 days later, but the policewoman and the others didn't have any other reason. However, there was still progress. The bodies were found in the wee hours of the morning, which meant that someone was active in the wee hours of the morning. To move the bodies, they needed the help of tools. The murderer should be active in the wee hours of the morning, and the police focused on some special office workers in the wee hours of the morning. For example, the cleaners. The cleaners in the capital were now equipped with intact garbage trucks. They had checked earlier, but didn't find anything unusual. All 3 crimes happened in the wee hours of the morning. Although the 3 victims had the habit of partying outside in the wee hours of the morning, the murderer might be waiting for an opportunity to suspect that the target was back. When Xiao Jin was found in school, it was also after school. She was holding a book, looking like a studious and exquisite girl, untainted by the world. He Yarrow stood in front of her and smiled. "Miss Xiao, can we talk?" Xiao Jin tilted her head and thought for a moment, then nodded and told the driver to go back later. They moved to a nearby cafe. After sitting down, He Yarrow asked, "What would you like to drink, Miss Xiao?" Xiao Jin said, "Juice will do." He Yarrow nodded and ordered a glass of juice for Xiao Jin and a cup of coffee for herself. Xiao Jin looked at He Yarrow with some interest. "You wanted to look for me but couldn't find an excuse. Coincidentally, someone asked you for help." He Yarrow's expression froze for a moment before she relaxed. "I think Miss Xiao should know who asked me to look for you. It was the Nanping branch." They didn't dare to believe Xiao Jin's words, but they were skeptical of Xiao Jin. Now that she was right after 3 days, they had no reason to ask Xiao Jin to go back and interrogate him. The 3rd victim had no connection to Xiao Jin. They knew very well that this definitely involved a secret past, which didn't have much to do with Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin shook his head. "This matter doesn't have much to do with me anymore. They'll find out in a week." He Yarrow was surprised. "You said a month." Xiao Jin smiled. "I can only predict one of the possible outcomes. I can't stop others from changing their minds." You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.